Full Metal Storm, Battle of the Machines. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 20, Tragic Battlefield. After Luo Yan and his sub passed by, another sub followed behind them and passed by Lily. That sub was not as lucky as Luo Yan and his sub. It was suddenly kicked by Lily. The whole sub flew out, and with a few screams from the car, it fell into the woods in the distance. An explosion was heard a moment later. It looked dangerous. Luo Yan looked back. The Lily had already climbed up and crashed into the black heavy machine driven by Hiheo. Blue flames spurted out from the feet and palms of Black Thunder at the same time. This seemingly bulky machine suddenly distanced itself from the giant beast. Then Black Thunder formed a seal and used the mysterious technique Black Rope to wrap around the front feet of the giant beast. With a strong pull, the giant beast fell to the ground again and was pulled away by Black Thunder, allowing the vehicles behind to pass. At this moment, boom. There was a loud noise. Luo Yan looked in the direction of the sound. He saw a mysterious machine driven by a third-year student being knocked over by a Lily. Then he used the buffalo-like sea to send it flying with shockwaves. When the mecha finally managed to stabilize its footing, two giant beasts came crashing in from the left and right. The mecha was smashed to pieces, parts flew everywhere, and explosions continued. Finally, the driver was ejected from the head of the mecha. Before he landed, he was caught by the ball-like Lily and swallowed directly into his stomach. This tragic scene made Luo Yan speechless for a long time. He sat back in the car. Zheng Shan, who was driving the car, also saw this scene in the rearview mirror. Too tragic. Zheng Shan shook his head and continued, but it's too strange. Why did so many giant beasts suddenly appear? Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly and uttered a word from his mouth. And Zheng Shan was stunned for a moment. Then he said, Luo, do you think it was done by that overlord level giant beast? Luo? Luo Yan frowned, but did not object. This possibility cannot be ruled out. Because of the phoenix tail, Huan has appeared in the safe zone. Maybe it really noticed the camp. In addition, the characteristics of Huan include the description of controlling beasts. Now that so many giant beasts have come together, it is hard to believe that it is a coincidence. It is more like being driven by something. At this moment, a roar sounded. Luo Yan responded by activating the barrier breaking eye. The world suddenly became a stick drawing in his eyes. Simple lines depicted the outline of things. Luo Yan immediately discovered that in a forest on their left, a huge biological grey light was approaching. There is a giant beast. Luo Yan pointed to the left. At this time, the trees in the forest were uprooted. They flew out like huge spears. Luo Yan's head darkened. A big tree fell from the sky. Zheng Shan turned the steering wheel sharply. The off-road vehicle turned a corner quickly and finally let the big tree fall beside it. It did not directly crush the car, but many branches entangled the off-road vehicle. Zheng Shan stepped on the accelerator to the bottom, and the wheels of the off-road vehicle were smoking. He couldn't leave. At this time, a sea with black hair and a buffalo-like appearance rushed out and rushed towards them. Run. Luo Yan made a prompt decision. He unbuckled his seatbelt and jumped out of the off-road vehicle. He and Zheng Shan had just jumped out of the vehicle when it became dark above their heads and a huge hoof stepped down. It was a life and death moment. Luo Yan burst out with all his strength. The Yuan Li in his body was running explosively through his meridians. Luo Yan rushed out violently. Just before the giant hoof landed, he escaped the trampling range. Luo Yan looked back. The off-road vehicle had been crushed. He didn't know whether Zheng Shan was dead or alive. Luo Yan couldn't care about him now. He turned around and ran. Behind him, the black bull-like beast had left. It seemed that it just passed by chance. But Luo Yan's danger was not over. There was a loud squeak behind him. Luo Yan looked back, and his scalp suddenly exploded. A group of giant parasites were following him. There were some parasites that looked like green-headed flies. Each of them was the size of a puppy. Their bodies were swollen, and there were many bubble cocoons on their backs. They had wings, but they could not fly. Instead, they crawled very fast on the ground. These were the parasites on the sea, rot flies. The bubble cocoons on their bodies would burst if they were slightly stimulated. They would splash out highly concentrated corrosive liquids. In addition, these things like to lay eggs in living organisms. They can lay hundreds of eggs each time. After the eggs hatch into larvae, they will parasitize the host and feed on the host's flesh and blood. A group of rotten ropes followed closely behind Luoyan. These things were different from the golden winged lice and could not be killed by close combat. And now, Luoyan had no gun. Seeing the rot flies getting closer and closer, Luoyan activated the breaking barrier eye and searched around for an environment that could save his life. He hoped to find a scene like a cave. In that case, as long as the entrance to the cave is blocked, there is a high probability of survival. At this time, he heard the sound of water. After searching, he soon found a small river. Luoyan immediately ran to the river. The river was surging, and the flow was extremely fast. Luoyan glanced at the swarm of flies that were approaching from behind. Gritting his teeth, he suddenly jumped into the river. Suddenly, he was uncontrollably carried downstream by the current. Luoyan tried to float to the surface of the water. Looking back, those rot flies chased along the river bank at first, but they were not as fast as the water flow. After a while, they were gone. At this time, Luoyan tried to get closer to the river bank, but unfortunately, he failed several times because the water flow was too fast. On the way, he encountered river pebbles from time to time, and Luoyan collided with them several times. Every time he collided, Luoyan had to use his yuan li in advance to make his skin present the texture of rock. This is how he didn't knock himself unconscious. But then, something even more desperate happened. This small river passing through the woods actually flowed into the underground cave. Luoyan tried hard to get ashore before entering the cave. Unfortunately, human power is no match for the power of nature. He was eventually washed into the cave by the river. He floated in the water for a while and choked on several mouthfuls of river water. Finally, after passing a sharp bend, the river gradually widened. The water flow also slowed down. Luoyan quickly activated the breaking barrier's eye and found a shallow beach. A moment later, he lay on the stone beach. He was soaked all over and now only knew how to breathe heavily. He didn't care about anything else. After a while, he sat up. Then he took off his clothes and pants in order to avoid getting wet clothes and catching a cold. After dehydrating his clothes, Luoyan continued to use the breaking barrier's eye to find an exit. Soon, he found a cave entrance. Through the breaking barrier's eye, he found that this cave led to a relatively open place. If he didn't take this road, he would only have one choice. That is to go upstream and leave from where the river came in. But, that is not something he can do now. In desperation, Luoyan had to go into the cave. There was no conversation along the way. After spending more than half an hour, Luoyan saw the light. He did not rush out immediately. He first used the barrier breaking eye to observe the exit. As a result, he did not see the biological grey light, but found that the space outside the cave. The density of yuan li was amazing. Chapter 21 Getting Rich. Since no biological grey light was found, Luoyan was relieved. He walked out of the cave and came to an open area. There was a spring here, surrounded by flowers and plants. The sun was shining from above. Luoyan looked up and found an irregular gap on it. It could lead to the outside world. But the gap was covered with vines as thick as pythons. Green vines hung down, long and short. When blown by the wind, they swayed in the cave. Luoyan walked towards the spring. After a few steps, he suddenly stopped. He pulled away the nearby flowers and plants, and found a plant emitting a faint bright yellow light. It turned out to be a Jiuying flower. Before setting off, Xing Feng talked about the situation of the Misty Canyon. It included information about precious medicinal herbs. Among them, the most precious is the Jiuying flower in front of him. It is the main material of the advanced potion Ningyuan agent. Each Ningyuan agent requires 20 credits to be exchanged, and a Jiuying flower can be exchanged for 15 credits. Luoyan looked around quickly and found that the Jiuying flowers here were growing densely and in large numbers. This inconspicuous cave was actually a treasure. Suddenly, Luoyan's body stiffened. Then he walked towards the northwest corner of the cave. In this corner, an irregular black crystal was surrounded by flowers and plants, and the breath in the crystal fluctuated from time to time. Condensed a series of ferocious beasts. Jiuying. It turned out to be Jiuying. Luo Yan's mind buzzed. Only one thought flashed through his mind. I'm rich. The Jiuying in front of him was only 1 meter high, far less than the one found in the Galaxy Stadium that day, but there are many Jiuying flowers in this cave. If they can be taken out, it will be a fortune. Amazing wealth. Luo Yan calmed down immediately. He knew very well that without strong strength, wealth would only bring danger to himself. He looked around again. Logically, where there is Jiuying, there should be giant beasts. However, it may be, because this Jiuying is too small, in such a remote place, and the space here is narrow, obviously it is not possible for giant beasts to enter. So this piece of Jiuying was preserved, which was a good thing for him. Luo Yan decided. After going out, he would not announce the information and location of this cave for the time being. Wait until he has enough strength. Next, he moved his body and then sat among the flowers and plants to start practicing. Since he did not bring the tranquilizer with him this time, Luo Yan could only let his thoughts diverge as much as possible and let his heart calm down. Probably because the density of Yuanli here is relatively high, Luo Yan quickly felt the Yuanli in the space. Then he brought the Yuanli into his body through breathing. According to Wei Fenghuo's instructions, he consciously drove the Yuanli to temper every inch of his muscles. After a while, Luo Yan found that the Yuanli he brought into his body every time he breathed was more than when he was in the academy. The surge of Yuanli almost formed a tide, constantly washing every inch of his muscles, making them tighter and more resilient. Unconsciously, Luo Yan was immersed in the world of cultivation. He was completely unaware of the passage of time. Until the last muscle was tempered, Luo Yan's whole body shook. It felt like he had broken through an invisible prison and entered a brand new world. He suddenly opened his eyes and looked at his hands. With a simple fist clenching movement, he felt that every muscle was tightened like a steel cable, containing power that he had never dared to think of before. Breakthrough? I'm now at the 3rd level of the primary level? Luo Yan still couldn't believe it. He stood up and threw a punch casually. Whoosh! The fist cut through the air, producing a low whistle. It also brought up a wisp of fist wind. The wildflowers in front of him swayed, and the petals flew everywhere. Luo Yan could feel that, after completing the tempering of all the muscles in his body, his strength increased by more than 1 level. He activated the barrier-breaking eye to observe himself. He found that the fiery red light representing blood and the bright yellow light representing Yuanli were both richer in color, and the 2 sets of numbers were more intuitive. Now, Luo Yan's ki and blood are 395, and his Yuanli is 155. Ki and blood almost doubled compared to the 2nd level of the primary level. Now Luo Yan knows that ki and blood not only represent vitality, but also a comprehensive expression of physical fitness and strength. The increase in this value also represents the improvement of Luo Yan's physical strength. In the forbidden area full of dangers, 1 point of improvement means 1 more chance of survival. Thinking of this, Luo Yan raised his head and looked at the gap on the top of the cave, wanting to escape from there. Unexpectedly, when he looked up, he found that it was already dark outside the cave. Luo Yan was stunned. He thought that, when he came in, it was not yet noon. So, he practiced for an afternoon. At this moment, he suddenly caught a slight sound in his ears. It sounded like the sound of snakes and insects spitting out their tongues. Luo Yan looked around. Then he saw a group of biological grey light, where he came in. That thing was flat and long, and it should be a creature like a python. Judging from the outline of the grey light, the python was not small, and the circle of fiery red light that represented its vitality was also very bright. Next to the circle of red light, a number jumped out: 318. Only a few dozen points less than Luo Yan, and much higher than when he was at the primary level 2. This means that this python is very dangerous. Soon, the python had swam into the cave, and it seemed to be the owner here. As soon as it came in, it immediately looked at Luo Yan. Then it looked at the dark boundary, and its eyes flashed with dark fire. Luo Yan immediately understood. This dark boundary was not ownerless. At the moment, the python had a slight bulge on its forehead. It seemed to be growing horns. It was obviously abnormal. It might be related to its frequent proximity to the dark boundary. Now Luo Yan was standing near the dark boundary. The python suddenly spit out its tongue, and suddenly its tail hit the ground, and its body rushed out like lightning. How fast the snake moved. It came in front of Luo Yan in an instant. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes and calmly observed the movements of the python. When the python opened its mouth, revealing its sharp teeth, and bit towards Luo Yan's neck, Luo Yan suddenly took a step back. The python closed its mouth and bit nothing, but exposed its head to Luo Yan's sight. Luo Yan sat on the horse with his waist lowered. He clenched his right fist. Suddenly, a wave of yuan li burst out. He punched with his iron fist. Bang! The front of the fist hit the python's head, hitting its slightly raised part. The python bounced up, as if it was electrocuted. It fell between the flowers and plants, twisting wildly. After a long time, it gradually stopped. Luo Yan looked at it coldly. In the field of vision of the breaking barrier eye, he saw the fiery red light of the python dimmed rapidly. The number next to the red light kept decreasing, and finally returned to 0. Looking at the python in the bushes again, it was already motionless. Especially its head. It could no longer maintain its original outline, because its skull had been smashed by Luo Yan. What Luo Yan used just now was boxing skills, bone crushing. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22 Warrior. The boxing skill bone crushing has strong instantaneous explosive power, and the shock method can bypass the protection of armor and muscles. Directly explode the bones in the body. Now, Luo Yan uses it to deal with this obviously mutated python. One blow can shatter all its bones. It shows its power. A moment later, Luo Yan cleared a piece of open space and started a fire. Then he peeled the python and meat, washed it with spring water, skewered it with branches, and roasted it on the fire. A moment later, most of the python went into Luo Yan's stomach. After eating and drinking, Luo Yan cleaned up the snake corpse and the fire. He shrank into the flowers and plants near the darkness. He spent a night like this. I don't know if it was because of the breakthrough yesterday, or the nourishment of snake meat. When he woke up the next day, Luo Yan only felt that his injuries had healed a lot. A moment later, he used the green vines hanging to the ground to leave from the gap above the cave. Next, we have to gather at the entrance of the canyon. Luo Yan looked around. There were either trees or strange rocks around. He had no idea where he was. He thought for a moment, found a huge tree, and climbed up. It was a fir tree, and it was incredibly tall. Even with the physical strength of a third level beginner, Luo Yan spent a lot of time to climb to the treetops. Looking out from the treetops, most of the trees were below his sight. He could clearly see where he was now. There was a solitary peak on the northeast side, like a sharp blade pointing to the sky. Luo Yan silently memorized it, so that he could get the Jiuying flower and Jiuying later. He looked around again, and saw the entrance to the canyon. Just as Luo Yan was confirming the direction, suddenly, there was a roar, and an explosion on his left. Luo Yan looked over. There were trees falling and burning fiercely. A giant beast fell down with a bang. There was also a black mecha kneeling down. Black thunder. It was the mecha driven by the third year student. Luo Yan locked the direction, quickly slid down from the fir tree, and ran away. Not long after, he heard gunshots. Luo Yan stopped, and hid behind a bush, opening the barrier breaking eyes. Not far from the black thunder, there was a biological grey light. Among them were several human-shaped shadows. The rest were parasite swarms. Those people relied on the earth slope to organize a defense line to resist the attack of the parasite swarm. Luo Yan went around to the back of the battlefield and came to the top of the earth slope. He climbed a big tree and hid in the tree canopy. At this angle, without the help of the barrier breaking eyes, Luo Yan could also see that under the earth slope, 5 college freshmen were attacking and defending in an orderly manner. to resist the attack of a group of rot flies. There, he saw two familiar people, Li Boheng and Zheng Shan. At this time, Li Boheng seemed to be acting as a commander. Under his command, several students took turns fighting. In a blink of an eye, nearly 100 rotten ropes were knocked down. When they stopped firing and rested, Luo Yan came to the side of the earth slope. To avoid misunderstanding, he took the initiative to speak. Zheng Shan. Hearing Luo Yan's voice, Zheng Shan raised his head and shouted happily, "Old Luo, you are not dead." Great. He didn't look like he was pretending. He was really happy for himself. Luo Yan's heart was also slightly warm. But on the surface, he just nodded lightly. Then he slid down the hillside. Li Boheng nodded at him. "When did you come?" "Just now. You were busy, so I didn't bother you," Luo Yan said concisely. A student next to him snorted. "You didn't come down to help when you arrived. You just took advantage of others." Luo Yan didn't argue. He didn't have a gun on him. How could he help? Hand-to-hand combat? Close combat with the rod flies. And not just one or two, but a group. He didn't want to die. Li Boheng stopped him and said, "We are all classmates. Don't do this. Besides, Luo Yan doesn't have a gun." After speaking, Li Boheng's eyes were filled with respect. Without a gun. But he was able to survive in the forbidden area. And he was alone. This is a real warrior. What a pity. Not everyone is as discerning as Li Boheng. Although several freshmen didn't say anything, their eyes were still dissatisfied. Luo Yan didn't take such a small matter to heart. He looked at Black Thunder. "What happened?" Li Boheng said, "We met Zheng Shan nearby yesterday. We were supposed to go to the gathering point together in the morning. Suddenly we ran into a giant beast and thought we were dead. Fortunately, Senior Hiheo arrived in time." "But," Li Boheng frowned and then shouted, "Oh no, Senior Hiheo hasn't come out yet. I'm afraid he's injured." He ran towards the mecha. Luo Yan followed him silently. Black Thunder knelt on the ground, and there were many places to climb and use for leverage. Soon, Luo Yan and the others came to the head of the body. The cockpit of the body is in the head, and the hatch is at the back of the head. At this time, Li Boheng knocked on the hatch. "Senior He, how are you? Did you hear me?" He called a few times, but there was no response. Luo Yan said in a deep voice, "Maybe he is unconscious." He searched for a while beside the hatch. In the Mecha Common Sense class, Teacher Zhao Yiden said that there is a manual device next to the cab that can force open the hatch. This is for rescuing the unconscious driver. After a moment, Luo Yan found the device and slapped it hard. Squeak. Gas was discharged next to the hatch, and the pressure inside and outside was balanced. Then it opened, and the cockpit of the mecha appeared in front of Luo Yan and the others. They had taken the simulated driving class, so they were not unfamiliar with the cockpit. When they walked in, they saw Hiheo fainted and fell on the seat. There were neuron wires inserted in his helmet and the back of his combat uniform. This is the access device of the empathy system. It can connect the mecha pilot and the mecha. Luo Yan and the others quickly separated the neuron wire from the interface driver and then lifted Hiheo out of the mecha. When Hiheo came to the ground, Li Boheng took off his helmet and started the life detection system on the combat uniform. Finally, the system showed that Hiheo only lost consciousness temporarily. There was no danger to his life. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Suddenly, a roar sounded. Near the giant beast knocked down by the Black Thunder in the distance, another Lily came running. The giant beast's hooves flew like flying. The forest was shaken by the trampling. The students were even more panicked. This was okay for them to deal with parasites, but it would be too difficult for them to fight the giant beast. "Run, let's run quickly. What about Senior Hiheo? Or should we hide him, wait until we find the teacher, and then let the search and rescue team come to rescue him? Senior He would have died long ago. Then what do you say we should do?" Seeing the giant beast getting closer and closer, Li Boheng stood up suddenly. "Quick, help me take off Senior He's combat uniform." "I'll try. See if you can drive the Black Thunder." Zheng Shan was shocked. "Can you do it? Have you driven a mecha?" "I haven't," Li Boheng said in a deep voice, "but there is no better way now." Zheng Shan and several classmates nodded. He looked at Li Boheng with admiration. Then he hurriedly tried to take off Hiheo's combat uniform. At this time, everyone heard the sound of the hatch closing. Li Bohan was stunned and looked at the Black Thunder. Sure enough, the hatch at the head of the fuselage was closed. Who went in? Li Bohan was stunned. Zheng Shan looked around and then shouted, Luo Luo, where is Luo Yan? He then looked at the Black Thunder, as if he had seen a ghost. Luo Luo is not going into the cockpit, is he? He is going to drive the mecha? Chapter 23, Revenge for You. What? Classmate Luo Yan entered the cockpit. Li Bohan said in a lost voice, how can this be? If you don't wear combat uniforms and helmets, you can't connect to the empathy system and you can't start the mecha. Several students nearby also complained. He has wasted his simulation class. This is not the way to show off. It will delay things. Savages from the surface are just ignorant. At this time, Luo Yang couldn't hear his classmates' complaints. When he saw the giant beast Li appear, Luo Yan immediately took action. He didn't hesitate and rushed directly into the cockpit. The reason why he didn't choose to escape was not because he wanted to show off. But when he saw Li, he activated the break the barrier eye and then found another giant beast. See? The buffalo-like giant beast hid behind a high mountain on the northwest side and slowly approached. Very insidious. Luo Yan believed that under the attack of two giant beasts, the chance of survival in the mecha battle would be higher. Otherwise, even if he managed to escape the area where the two beasts collided, the parasite swarm behind him would be deadly. Luo Yang knew that he was a natural empath. At that time in Flower City, let alone wearing combat uniforms, he didn't even enter the cockpit. He even got on the empathy system of the White Dragon. So he didn't waste time and got straight to the point. At this time, he sat in the driver's seat. According to the knowledge learned in the simulation class, he put his hands on the floating point sensor. Then he relaxed his body and recalled the state when he was connected with the White Dragon. Luo Yang cleared his mind and let his mind be free of any distractions. Use his body and mind to feel the existence of the mecha. After a moment, in a trance, he seemed to hear someone laughing. Then many pictures flashed before his eyes. Among them, there were several pictures that left a deep impression on him. He saw himself and his wife and children having dinner. The family of 3 was in a tent, and it seemed to be evening outside. But there were 2 suns in the sky. He also saw himself fighting with a wild boar. That wild boar seemed very similar to Lily. He also saw 2 more graves in front of him. One of them was small, with a wreath on it. Finally, he saw himself pounce on the endless sea of beasts below him. In these scenes, Luo Yan felt joy, anger, sadness and other emotions. And the last scene of pounce on the sea of beasts made him feel an inexplicable sense of tragedy. Let me. Revenge for you. Luo Yan opened his eyes. The electronic sound in the cockpit sounded. The empathy system is online. Neural connection is stable. All restrictions are lifted. Match. Start. Luo Yan suddenly saw a light in front of him. It turned out that the panoramic window had been activated. He was in the cockpit, but he could see the surrounding scenes. He saw the earth under his feet. The forest was like a green carpet. The towering mountains had now become a dirt slope that could be easily climbed. It was as if he had become a giant. On the ground, Zheng Shan exclaimed, "Look, it's moving. The mech is moving." Li Bohan had already seen it without his reminder. The engine on the Black Thunder restarted, and the signal lights in various places lit up. The roar of energy running, and the sound of mechanical operation came from the body. With a buzz, the Black Thunder, that had been kneeling on the ground stood up. But at this time, sparks flew from the left arm of the body. It seemed that the damage was serious. However, Luo Yan actually restarted the Black Thunder. It was enough to shock people. Am I dazzled? That savage started the mech. How did he do it? This is unscientific. The students who were still complaining about Luo Yan just now were now stunned. It was as if they had seen a miracle. In the cockpit, Luo Yan saw through the holographic display that the left arm of the body was damaged and could not be used. His fingers kept tapping on the floating point sensor to detect the ammunition inventory of the Black Thunder and the status of the weapon. The results came out quickly. The Black Thunder Shenwei rifle only had 1 magazine left, and there were 23 bullets. There are still 3 missiles left in the missile launch bay on the chest. In addition, the Black Thunder is not equipped with close combat weapons such as swords. Its weapons are arms and fists that are much larger than those of conventional machines. The arms of the Black Thunder are equipped with a super torque system, which gives the machine stronger explosive power and destructive power. In addition, there is a hidden jet system at the elbow of the machine. When needed, the striking force can be increased to a higher level. Finally, the driver should be more proficient in various boxing skills. Therefore, it is not equipped with weapons such as swords. After the inspection, Luoyan activated the break the barrier eye and saw that the buffalo-like sea on the northwest side took 2 steps back. It was obviously accumulating strength and preparing to hit. At the same time, Lily had already rushed to the front. The system calculated that there would be a collision in 2 seconds. At this moment, under Luoyan's control, the Black Thunder suddenly jumped up and rolled in the air, allowing Lily to pass under it and hit nothing. Almost at the same time, there was a loud rumbling noise from the northwest. Li Boheng and others looked over and saw that the sea like a black cloud broke through the mountain and rushed out. But it happened to collide with Lily. The 2 giant beasts collided with a bang. The ground shook violently. Li Boheng and others were knocked to the ground. On the other side, Lei had already landed on the ground. It slid forward for a while and turned quickly. Then the chest armor opened, and 3 consecutive missiles, emitting flames, flew out of the launch cabin and hit Lily's head and CS side. In the violent explosion, several fireballs expanded rapidly. Finally, they turned into a wave of fire that swept around. Lei did not stop attacking. The machine picked up the Shenwei rifle with one hand and fired bullets specially designed for giant beasts. The bullets dragged the flames, drew a clear trajectory in the air, and sank into the thick smoke and flames. A student shook his head. Can't he wait for the giant beast to come out before fighting? It's just a waste of ammunition to just shoot randomly like this. In the cockpit, a little bit of silver light lit up around Luoyan's red eyes. He still maintained the barrier breaking eyes. This allowed him to see through the thick smoke and flames directly. And with the help of the computer, he locked onto Lily's head. In his eyes, Lily's circle of fiery red light was dimming. The numbers that appeared next to it kept decreasing. It can be seen that when the missile hit his head just now, Lily's ki and blood plummeted. Now every bullet can cause more than 200 to 300 damage to it. And Lily's ki and blood value is now less than 4,000. Chapter 24. Fighting to the end. In a blink of an eye, the Shenwei rifle had fired 10 bullets. Lily's head was blown into a bloody mess. Another bullet shot through the skull that was blown open and directly shattered its brain. Suddenly, Luoyan saw that there were more than 1,000 blood points left, and it instantly became 0. Get rid of 1. He looked at the ammunition reserve. There were still 12 rounds. Just as Luoyan was attacking Lily, the buffalo beast had stood up again. There were 2 big holes in its left body caused by missiles. Blood was pouring out, but this aroused its ferocity. While Luoyan was attacking Lily, it spread its 4 hooves and rushed towards Luoyan. Luoyan saw this scene from the full screen window. At the same time, he saw that the blood of the sea was still more than 5,000. Although its blood value had been decreasing due to the bleeding of the wound, it would not be cleared for a while. Luoyan had no intention of fighting the beast head on. He remembered Wei Fenghua's words and used long-range attacks to consume the beast's physical life first. Harvest at the right time. So when the giant beast hit, Black Thunder rolled to avoid it, leaving C with nothing to hit. But C turned around and stomped its front feet on the ground. It stepped out a shockwave. The ground immediately shook violently and cracks appeared on the earth. Luoyan was shaking uncomfortably in the cockpit. If he hadn't been wearing a seatbelt, he would have been thrown out by now. The body of the machine was shaking like a drunk. Taking this opportunity, C rushed over and used its horn to hit the belly of the mecha fiercely. The abdominal armor of Black Thunder was immediately pierced. Because of the empathy system, Luoyan only felt that his stomach was stabbed by a sharp cone. The pain made his face change. A drop of blood dripped from his nose. In order to better control the mecha operator needs to connect with the body through the empathy system. This allows them to transform into giants. It also means that they share the damage with the body. It's just that the damage to the mecha master is mainly the impact on perception and nerves. But if the situation is too serious, it can also be fatal. Therefore, the mecha master needs to wear combat uniforms. In addition to being a device connected to the empathy system, the combat uniform also has the function of buffering nerve impact and reducing pain. And there is a life detection system. In the event of shock, there is also an automatic cardiac defibrillator system to save lives. But Luo Yan doesn't have a combat uniform. It is not difficult to imagine how much pain he is in now. Enduring the pain in his abdomen, Luo Yan gritted his teeth and controlled Black Thunder to stab the rifle into the wound on the left side of the behemoth. Shoot. Bang 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 bang. Fierce gunshots rang out, and bullets shattered the organs in the sea body. They broke out from the other side of its body, creating blood holes one after another. The behemoth's blood and ki dropped rapidly. At this time, the behemoth's eyes were red. He lifted it up with force. As a heavy body, Black Thunder was actually lifted up and fell into the distance. Boom. The dark mecha hit the ground heavily and rolled inevitably. In the cockpit, due to the existence of the omnidirectional gyroscope, the cockpit always maintains balance in the body. But under the effect of the empathy system, Luo Yan still felt dizzy, and because of the violent collision, many circuits in the cockpit jumped out of sparks, one after another across the space. On the ground, Li Boheng and others were frightened and pale, because they were on the track where the Black Thunder rolled. Run. Stop quickly, the students screamed. Li Boheng came to his senses, and hurried to hug Hiheo on the ground. At this time, Zheng Shan did not run, and picked up Hiheo's legs. The two of them lifted the third-year student tacitly and ran desperately to the outside of the track. But it was too late. In the cockpit, Luo Yan slowed down and saw Li Boheng and others behind him. He quickly asked Black Thunder to throw away the rifle, freed his hands, and grabbed the ground with 5 fingers. Grabbed out 5 gullies. Finally, it stopped when it pressed down on Li Boheng and the others. Zheng Shan raised his head and saw the huge heel of the mecha right above his head. He clearly saw the various structures on the bottom of the body, as well as the mud, stones, and grass debris on it. If Luo Yan hadn't stopped in time, Zheng Shan believed that he would have stuck to the foot armor of the mecha in another form. Then the mecha rushed out with force. The ground was shaking. Zheng Shan breathed a sigh of relief. He sat down on the ground with his buttocks, and he had no strength left. In the cockpit, through the full screen window, Luo Yan saw the sea running towards him. The giant beast was covered in blood. With every step it took, a lot of blood and meat would fall from its body. At this time, the giant beast had only more than 2,000 blood and ki left. But Luo Yan didn't have a gun. Now, he could only use close combat. Black Thunder rushed away and soon met the giant beast. The pattern on the horn of sea lit up with a blue-black glow. From a distance, it was like a burning flame. Obviously, the giant beast was going all out. Luo Yan was no exception. He roared in the cockpit, activating all the super torques of Black Thunder's arms. Before colliding with the sea, Black Thunder jumped up. In midair, he bent his arms and clenched his fists. Elbow jets activated. Boom. The hidden jets at the elbows of the machine suddenly lit up. With full output, a thick blue flame was ejected, pushing Black Thunder's iron fist towards the target. At the same time, through the empathy system, Luo Yan used the boxing skill bone crushing. His yuan li surged out, and through the machine body amplification, a ball of light lit up between Black Thunder's fists. The next second Black Thunder's fist collided with the horn of the sea. Luo Yan suddenly felt a pain in his right hand. It turned out that the outer armor on Black Thunder's fist was shattered and thrown away by the giant beast's horn. But at the same time, the horn of the sea was also smashed. The outer armor was broken, revealing the metal skeleton and artificial muscle fibers inside. The broken steel fist also hit the head of the sea heavily. The giant beast suddenly shook all over. A circle of ripples spread from the fist of the body. In an instant, it passed through the body of the giant beast. The long hair of the sea flew backwards. The parasites hidden in the hair exploded one after another. The giant beast wailed. It was knocked back by the punch of the Black Thunder. After sliding a distance, it staggered 2 steps. Then, from the eyes, mouth, and wounds all over the body, streams of blood spurted out. The sea suddenly fell to the ground in a weird posture, as if it had lost all its bones. At this time, if the body of the giant beast was cut open, it would be found that all the bones in its body were shattered. Not a single piece was intact. In the cockpit, Luo Yan panted heavily. Watching the blood of the giant beast finally cleared, he breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the red light representing vitality disappear. Then he found that his nose was warm. He touched it and found that his palm was covered in blood. Chapter 25 The Value of Luoyan. Hiheo groaned a few times and slowly opened his eyes. At first, his vision was blurry. After a while, his sight gradually came into focus. Then he saw a huge, metallic heavy figure. He was a little dazed. He felt familiar. Suddenly he remembered that it was not his own body. Wasn't it Black Thunder? After killing the giant beast, Black Thunder stood up. The outer armor on its abdomen and fists was still falling off. The bright sparks jumping out from the damaged parts of the body told the fierceness of the battle. The sunlight was fierce. The heavy body of Black Thunder outlined a golden light, like a black god of war, standing between heaven and earth. At this time, the cockpit of Black Thunder opened and someone got out. The man held the black outer armor of the body with his hand, raised his head, closed his eyes, and carried the sunlight all over the ground. On the ground, everyone looked at the figure dyed golden by the sunlight. They were shocked. A few seconds passed. Hiheo suddenly shouted, "Which bastard opened my Black Thunder?" Li Boheng and Zheng Shan and several other students realized that the third-year student had woken up. Li Boheng hurriedly explained, "It was classmate Luoyan. Senior Hiheo, don't blame him. If he hadn't killed the two giant beasts, I'm afraid we would all be in danger. He killed the two giant beasts." Hiheo looked around and saw the bodies of Li and Si. Then he touched his chest. "No, my combat uniform is still on me. How could he start the mecha?" Li Boheng raised his glasses and said, "I guess classmate Luo may be a natural resonator." Natural resonator? Zheng Shan and other students looked confused. They had no idea what that was. Hiheo was shocked. Then he muttered to himself, "So that's it. It turns out that Luoyan is a natural resonator. I was wondering why Zheng would support him to fight a death challenge for a wild boy from the surface. If he is a natural resonator, then it makes sense." At this time, Zheng Shan and others were already talking at once. "Student Li, what is a natural resonance person?" Li Boheng smiled slightly and did not keep them in suspense. He explained, "We, the candidate mecha masters, may not be able to pilot mechas, even after graduating from the academy. Teacher Zhao Yiden has already talked about this in the mecha common sense class. That's right, we can't achieve empathy with just any mecha. Even the elementary mechas with the lowest empathy requirements may fail to achieve empathy. Some people may never get their own mecha in their entire lives." Hiheo stood up and said in a deep voice, "But natural resonators are different. These guys seem to be born to do this. They can achieve empathy with any type and level of mecha, even if they are not wearing combat uniforms and are not connected to neuronal wires. They can also pilot mechas. There was only one natural resonator in the entire Guangling city before, and now there is a second one." Zheng Shan said puzzledly, "In this case, natural resonators just have more choices than others, and they don't have to worry about not having a mecha to pilot. But classmate Li and senior He, you seem to admire natural resonators very much." Hiheo sneered and asked back, "That's all? You don't understand the meaning of natural resonators at all." Li Boheng seemed to know a lot about this and smiled. Teacher Zhao also said that visualization techniques are divided into levels. The same is true for machines. Based on their performance, they can be divided into elementary, intermediate and advanced levels. Above the advanced machines, there are divine gods, divine generals and even higher level machines. Elementary, intermediate and advanced, and even divine gods, can be modified to increase mecha peripherals and improve performance, to improve the level assessment of the machine. However, divine general level and higher machines cannot be improved by artificial means. The level of these machines has been fixed from the moment they leave the factory, and the more advanced the machine, the more difficult it is to empathize. Especially machines above the divine general level, most of them have special properties, so the mecha pilots who can drive them, they are all valuable assets. Zheng Shan suddenly realized, so, natural resonators can empathize with all machines. In other words, they can easily achieve empathy with advanced machines, and can easily drive divine general level machines. Is this their value? Hiheo chuckled. You're not stupid at all. Yes, the God General class machines have the ability to destroy a city on their own. But not every mecha pilot can empathize with them. And this is not a problem for natural resonators at all. Now Guangling only has one God General class. If we can train a natural resonator to become a qualified mecha pilot, then we in Guangling can ask for another God General class machine. With 2 God General class machines, Guangling City will get a ticket to enter the GD battlefield. The significance of this is beyond your imagination. While they were talking, Luo Yan had already gotten off the machine. He walked over. He glared at Luo Yan. He passed by him without saying a word. Then he looked at the Black Thunder. Finally, he said, outsiders should not drive other people's machines casually. Look at what you have ruined the Black Thunder. Luo Yan did not respond. But at this time, he said again, but for a layman, you did a good job. Remember to wear combat clothes next time. Although the natural resonator has certain advantages, you will die if you are not careful. Luo Yan looked back. He had already boarded the machine. After a moment, the Black Thunder restarted. Heo's voice sounded through the external speaker. Let's go. I will escort you to the gathering point. He drove the Black Thunder to pick up the rifle and then walk towards the entrance of the canyon. In the evening, Luo Yan and others arrived at the gathering point. After arriving at the temporary camp, Heo went to make a report. At night, Luo Yan was called into the tent by Wen Fenghe. In the tent, Wen Fenghe picked up a glass of water and swallowed 2 capsules. Then said, Heo has already told me that you drove the Black Thunder to kill the Behemoth and protect your classmates. Good performance. After returning, the academy will give you a reward. But, you are a natural resonator. You have great potential. In the future on the battlefield, I hope you will prioritize self-preservation. If you have the energy, help your comrades. Luo Yan looked at him and asked, I heard from Zengshan that natural resonators are precious treasures? Wen Fenghe nodded. That's right. Luo Yan was a little puzzled and asked, in that case, why didn't the Academy and Commander D stop me from fighting to the death? If I die, wouldn't it be a loss of a precious treasure? Wen Fenghe smiled and said, the sword is sharpened by grinding, and the fragrance of plum blossoms comes from the bitter cold. Do you understand? Luo Yan's doubts were gone. He nodded vigorously. I understand. Chapter 26 3 Rewards. On Sunday afternoon, Luo Yan and others finally returned to school. There were 65 people when they left, but only 60 when they came back. 5 freshmen died. After returning to school, Luo Yan immediately went to exchange 7 bottles of calming agent and a red poison relief agent. This cost him another 9 credits. But he didn't feel sad at all. Including the week in the forbidden area, there is only 1 week left before the death tournament. Luo Yan has to intensify his training. As for the other participant of the death tournament, Luo Beachin did not go to school after arriving in Guangling City. Instead, he went home. As soon as he entered the house, he was notified. His father Luo Xianai was waiting for him in the study. Luo Beachin came to the study and knocked on the door. Come in. His father's cold voice came from inside. Luo Beachin pushed the door open and saw that there was another person in the study besides his father. The man sat on the ground with his eyes closed. It was obviously extraordinary that he could put on such a high profile in front of Luo Xianai. Luo Xianai said simply, this is Gao Lin, Mr. Gao. Mr. Gao is a master of the 3rd level of Tongsun. A real master. Don't go to the academy for the next week. Mr. Gao will teach you. In addition, I have prepared weapons, protective gear, resources for practice, and potions for use in the arena. You only need to concentrate on one thing. Practice, and kill your opponent after a week. That's it. You can get out. From beginning to end. Luo Beachin was not given a chance to speak. He didn't care whether he accepted it or not. This is his father. Luo Xianai. Monday morning was Xiaoshi's general knowledge class. The teacher who looked most like a teacher walked into the classroom. He looked at the students with his highly myopic eyes. Then he said, did Luo classmate die? A burst of laughter broke out in the classroom. Zengshan snorted and said, it's good that he died. At this time, a student stood up and said, "Report to the teacher." Luo Beechan asked for a week's leave. I heard that he wants special training. After saying that, he glanced at Luo Yan. Obviously, this special training is for the death challenge a week later. Is that so? Xiaoshi said, "Well, then let's go to class. Today, I'll tell you about the Doomsday Prophecy." Doomsday Prophecy? Luo Yan, who was a little distracted, looked up when he heard this word. Xiaoshi used a projector to project some photos on the blackboard. They were all photos of a stone tablet. "This is the Doomsday Tablet," Xiaoshi said. "This is what we found in that world. It predicts that, when people discover that world, the end of the world will come. And in the next 1 or 2 years, the signs of the end of the world will gradually appear. So, countries around the world will secretly build underground cities. That's why we now have the 18 cities in the north and the 9 cities in the south." When Xiaoshi paused, a classmate raised his hand and said, "Teacher, since there is a prophecy and the underground city was built in advance, why didn't you make it public? Are you afraid of causing panic?" Luo Yang nodded secretly. He was also entangled in this issue. When he saw Guangling City, he felt a little indignant. Building underground cities to avoid natural disasters. Obviously, some people knew that there would be a disaster early on. But until the outbreak of the giant beast disaster, ordinary people had not received any news. If it had been announced in advance, even if the disaster could not be prevented, the casualties would not have been so severe. Xiaoshi sighed and said, "On the one hand, I'm worried about causing panic. On the other hand, it is because the disaster predicted by the Doomsday Monument did not happen until a century later. But no one expected that the disaster would suddenly break out after only half a century. This is probably what is called, man proposes, God disposes." The disaster broke out. In advance, Luo Yan closed his eyes. It seemed that he could see some familiar figures flashing before his eyes. It turned out that, if the prophecy was not wrong, those figures would not have disappeared. Next, Xiaoshi talked about other things. Until the end of get out of class. When he walked out of the classroom, the college broadcast sounded, notifying Luo Yan to go to the principal's office. Luo Yan was stunned. Why did he let himself go to the principal's office? Was the college's reward issued? Luo Yan was motivated all of a sudden. The principal's office. When he walked in, Luo Yan saw Wei Fenghe and a short old man. The old man was dressed casually and wore flip-flops. His white hair was tied into a small braid. Wei Fenghe introduced, "This is the principal of the college, Pan Rinfeng." Luo Yang nodded slightly. "Principal Pan." Pan Rinfeng chuckled and said, "Luo Yan, you have performed well in the forbidden area. Especially in the critical moment, you drove the Black Thunder to kill 2 beasts. Your courage is commendable." After research, it was decided to give rewards as encouragement. "Teacher Wei, you tell me." Wei Fenghe walked forward and smiled. "There are 3 rewards. First, 300 credits, which have been transferred to your student card now. Second, a heavy weapon. I will give you a list of information later. You can tell me when you have chosen it. Third, advanced visualization. When you have completed the practice of viewing mountains and seas and have broken through, you will be awarded a higher level of visualization. No conditions are required." Luo Yan was a little dizzy by these rewards. 300 credits was expected. The heavy weapon was somewhat unexpected. As for the advanced visualization technique, it was an unexpected surprise. That means that there will be no obstacles until he reaches the Tangxuan level. After calming down, Luo Yan nodded. Wei Fenghe gave him a tablet. On it was a list of the heavy weapons collected by the school, asking Luo Yan to carefully select them before reporting. Back in the dormitory, Luo Yang couldn't wait to select them. Weapons, including various weapons used by mechs, are divided into levels. The lowest level is craftsman's weapon. Like the rifles and sabers they are equipped with when they go on missions. Like the Shenwei rifles used by mechs. They all belong to the craftsman level. The second level is heavy weapons. Weapons of this level, the power is far greater than craftsman's weapon. The third level is divine weapons. Weapons of this level are said to be made of materials from that world. And divine weapons are not the highest level. However, with Luo Yan's current status and level, he cannot get in touch with them. He doesn't even know what divine weapons look like. At this time, Luo Yan focused on selecting a heavy weapon. In the end, he chose a standard longsword called Splitting Star. In addition to being as sharp as a heavy weapon, it can also split the sword body and shoot out fragments to hurt people. The existence of the magnetic suction system can reassemble the split sword body fragments. Chapter 27, Dragon Step, Open Soul Wheel. Guangling City, Jiuying Avenue. Luo Mansion. In the training room, Luo Beachin arrived early in his Taoist uniform. He waited for about half an incense stick of time. He heard footsteps. He looked over. The old man who appeared in his father's study in the morning came. Luo Beachin bowed and said, "Greetings, Mr. Gao. Just call me Mr." Gaolin put his hands behind his back and walked around Luo Beachin. "What is your current level of visualization?" Luo Beachin answered truthfully, "Elementary level 3. Gaolin hummed and said, "You are practicing wind and thunder speed, which requires quick success. It seems that the instructor who chose this technique for you has a good idea." Luo Beachin said respectfully, "Yes, my instructor Huang Yang said that, if I don't fight to the death, then I should practice a technique that focuses on the foundation, such as viewing mountains and seas. But if you want to fight to the death, a higher level will give you an advantage over that guy surnamed Luo." Gaolin said indifferently, "That makes sense. Even if the foundation is not solid, because of the quick success. But you can practice other techniques in the future, and it won't be too late to come back and fill in the foundation." He paused, and then said, "Then do you know what kind of technique your opponent is practicing? What level?" Luo Beachin answered fluently, "That guy surnamed Luo is practicing viewing mountains and seas, and as far as I know, he is at the elementary level 2. He earned a lot of credits when he enrolled. After issuing a challenge to me, he exchanged a large amount of tranquilizers." Gaolin smiled. The death ring is right in front of him, and he is still asked to practice viewing mountains and seas. It seems that his mentor has great confidence in him. With the tranquilizer, it is not surprising that he can reach the primary 2nd level. Although there is only 1 week left, you must prepare for the worst. He may break through and reach the primary 3rd level before going on the ring. Luo Beachin narrowed his eyes. Since he was recommended by Dizeng, he may be taught by Dizeng himself in terms of combat skills. Gaolin sat down cross-legged. Dizeng's combat skills come from 2 basic styles. One is Thunder, which is a sword skill. The other is Bone Crushing, which is a boxing skill. Both of these have derived many combat skills, such as Thunder, Confusion, Thunder, Flash. Also, Bone Crushing. 7 kills, Bone Crushing, Heart Splitting. The old man seemed to know Dizeng very well, and Luo Beachin pricked up his ears, not daring to miss any. "Considering the time and your classmates' level of visualization," Gaolin smiled and said, "Dizeng can't teach him derived combat skills. He should only teach him 2 basic styles. I will no longer teach you combat skills. There is only 1 week left. It's too late to teach. However, I will teach you a set of footwork, or body skills." Luo Beachin was a little confused. "Footwork? What can footwork do?" Gaolin smiled faintly. "Although footwork cannot defeat the enemy, it is an important auxiliary means. At the same time, it can also evade attacks. And some advanced footwork even has other magical uses. For example, Phantom Step can interfere with the opponent's judgment. Linksu Step can step into the air and come and go without a trace." Luo Beachin was shocked when he heard it. Only then did he realize that he underestimated the footwork. Gaolin stood up and said, "I will give you the footwork name Yaolong, so that you can handle the opponent's attack with ease. Then, find an opportunity to counter-attack and defeat the enemy with 1 move." He raised his hand. Another heavy chop. Afternoon. Training hall. As soon as Luo Yan came in, he saw Wei Fenghua talking to another person. The man's face was hard and cold, and he was the commander of the Surface Exploration Corps. "Dizeng. Luo Yan is here." Wei Fenghua clenched his fist and coughed twice, and asked, "Have you chosen your weapons?" Luo Yan nodded. He returned the tablet to Wei Fenghua. There were options he checked on it. "Splitting Star?" Wei Fenghua nodded, put away the computer and said, "Okay, I'll get it for you. Dizeng will teach you in the afternoon class." After saying that, the instructor left. Zeng looked Luo Yan up and down. Then he stretched out his hand and pressed heavily on his shoulder. Luo Yan couldn't help but straighten his back. From the strength of Zeng's palm, he felt a kind of encouragement. Zeng should have heard about what happened in the forbidden area, but he didn't say a word. Instead, he asked, "What is your progress in practicing visualization?" Luo Yan didn't hide it. Elementary 3rd level. Just broke through not long ago. A hint of surprise flashed in Zeng's eyes. Then he said, "What I want to teach you today is not combat skills or mysterious arts. It is a secret method that stimulates oneself and unleashes potential in a short period of time. It is called opening soul wheel." Luo Yan said nothing, but was fully focused. The Taoist Yunji Kikan says that people have 7 souls, namely corpse dog, fushi, Qin, swallowing thief, non-poison, purifying filth, and stinky lung. The 7 souls correspond to the 7 chakras of Yuan, Yu, Ling, Li, Qi, Hui, and Chang in the human body. The so-called opening soul wheel means to stimulate and open these 7 chakras, thereby temporarily stimulating greater potential. Luo Yan nodded and found that he remembered this knowledge very easily. Zeng continued, "You will be fighting in the death ring in 1 week, so I can only teach you how to open one of the wheel Cs. I will teach you the other ones when I have time later." After a pause, Zeng said in a deep voice, "What I'm going to teach you is the easiest to learn and the foundation of this secret method. Open the Yuan wheel. Now let me demonstrate it." Zeng stretched out his hands, tapped his shoulders on both sides, and finally tapped his eyebrows with his fingers. To open the Yuan wheel, we need to use Yuan force to stimulate the Jiuying point on both sides, and finally stimulate the Yintang point to open it. Beginners need to use external stimulation to assist, because they are not skilled. After you are familiar with it, you only need to use Yuan force to stimulate the points. Then, this is the state of opening the Yuan wheel. Boom. A wave of Yuan force suddenly erupted from Zeng's body. The Yuan force overflowing from his body was visible to the naked eye. The bright yellow light surged up, making his hair flutter. At the same time, Zeng released an astonishing pressure, pressing Luo Yan almost to the ground. As Zeng took a long breath, the pressure and the rising Yuanli quickly disappeared. After opening the Yuanlin, the various functions of the body, including the strength of Yuanli and the power of combat skills, can be almost doubled. Zeng explained. Therefore, the more solid your foundation is, the greater the room for improvement. But at the same time, opening the soul wheel requires a price. Opening different soul wheels requires different prices. The price of the Yuanlin is that your physical strength and Yuanli will be quickly consumed during the duration of the state. So, don't open it. If you open the Yuanlin, the winner needs to be decided in a short time. Determine life and death. Chapter 28, Decisive Battle Day. Next, Zeng explained in detail. He also pointed out the acupuncture points that Luo Yan wanted to stimulate. Finally, he let Luo Yan practice by himself. An afternoon passed like this. When the class was about to end, Zeng said, "Come on, open it once, and let me see." Luo Yan nodded. He mobilized the Yuan force in his body and pressed the acupuncture points with his hands to guide the Yuan force impact. When he pressed the Yintang point between his eyebrows with his fingers, Luo Yan's whole body was shocked. The Yuan force in his body released a strong wave. Then the Yuan force appeared and surged. Luo Yan's hair fluttered, and his red eyes seemed to burn with flames. He felt the power in his body was magnificent and endless. It seemed that he had endless strength. Zeng nodded and pointed to a wooden man for training next to him. "Perform a bone-breaking move for me to see." Luo Yan came to the wooden man without saying a word. He raised his arm and clenched his fist. He blasted out. Bang! The fist hit the wooden man. The wooden man flew 3 meters away. Then he fell to the ground. Zeng walked over and patted the chest of the wooden man. The surface of the wooden man immediately broke apart, and the wood inside was shattered. Luo Yan couldn't help but look at his fist. He thought that if this punch hit a person, it would be the part that was hit, and the bones would be shattered into powder. This is the power of the Yuan wheel. Okay, let's finish the exercise, Zeng said. Luo Yan followed the method he taught and collected his breath. Suddenly, he felt tired. It was indeed as Zheng said. The Koan wheel would accelerate the consumption of physical energy and you only. Zheng said again. Basically, this is the case. Next, you have to practice diligently before the death ring. You have to practice to the point where you can use you only to open the acupoints without any assistance. This is of practical significance. Luo Yan nodded. Zheng patted him on the shoulder and said, on the day of the death ring, I have a mission and cannot watch the ring. As compensation, I will teach you the method of KIR wheel after I come back. Luo Yang nodded vigorously. At the same time, he knew this was Zheng's encouragement. At this time, when Fenghua came back, holding a wooden box, Zheng said hello to him and left. When Fenghua coughed twice and said, how is it? What did Zheng teach you? New fighting skills? Luo Yan shook his head. No, he taught me the secret method of opening soul wheel. When Fenghua was stunned. Then he said, good guy, you are willing to give it up. You must practice well. This secret method he earned with his military merits, after risking his life. Don't waste his hard work. Luo Yang knew that this secret method was so precious. When Fenghua handed the wooden box to Luo Yan again, Luo Yan opened it. There was a long sword inside. The long sword was pitch black, and there were irregular blue fine lines on the sword. It was like it was pieced together with fragments. Splitting star? Luo Yan looked at his instructor. When Fenghua nodded slightly and said, try the feel. Luo Yan picked up the long sword and felt that the weight was just right. He turned around and chopped at the wooden man. An arm fell off the wooden man. The cut was smooth. When Fenghua reminded, remember to read the instructions in the wooden box. Also, your 300 credits have been distributed. I suggest you go to the logistics department to exchange some first aid and stimulants. You will need these things when you fight in the death ring. Luo Yan nodded. Okay. A week passed quickly. In a blink of an eye, it was the day when Luo Yan and Luo Bichen fought in the death ring. The time for the death ring was set at 10 o'clock in the morning. The location was the number 3 training hall of the college. The preparation of the ring and the maintenance of order in the training hall fell on the shoulders of the student union. Early in the morning, as a member of the student union, Hiheo reluctantly followed his partner Jiuying to the student union office. The president of the student union, Behemoths, stood by the window, and the sun fell on this gentle young man, making him look more handsome. Hiheo snorted and looked at the ceiling. Little woman. Jiuying chuckled. Big man. At this time, Behemoths coughed dryly. Student He and Zhao Su are here. Now, everyone is here. Everyone. I believe you know it too. The two protagonists of today's death ring are both from prominent backgrounds. The third prince of Kaiming heavy industry, and the natural resonator recommended by Commander D. I've received the news. Many big shots in the city will come to watch the ring today. The room was immediately filled with discussions. President, then our student union won't get involved in this matter, right? That's right. If it's someone from the school, it's easy to deal with. But how can we control the big shots in the city? Hiheo slapped his hand on the table. He looked around. Waste. So what if he's a big shot? This is Basin Academy. Even if the mayor comes, he has to shut up and watch. Anyone who dares to point fingers will be kicked out. Jiuying, who was standing next to him, had already put his hand on his forehead, looking headache. The other student union members pointed directly at Hiheo's nose. Who are you calling a waste? You are a coarse fellow. If you can't talk, just say less, and don't bring shame to our college. Behemoths smiled and said, okay. Student E, we are all family. Speak politely in the future. Everyone. Student E's words are off, but his logic is not. He is right. No matter who you are, you have to abide by the rules of our college when you come to Basin College. And the principal came to me yesterday. The principal said that he fully supports us. So today, everyone, just let go and do it. But remember, if you can avoid it, try not to do it. Everyone is a guest, and we still have to give face to the guests. Behemoths said lightly, but the meaning was very clear. If there are people who don't follow the rules and don't want face, even if they are big shots, when it's time to fight, fight. Hiheo stood up at once. He walked towards the gate without looking back. Jiuying chased after him. Where are you going? Training hall number 3 basically smiled and said to the others, everyone go first, I will be there soon. Training hall number 3. There were already students setting up the ring. Suddenly, a student rushed in. Teacher Huang is here. A student union member in charge of the host asked, is it Teacher Huang Yang? How many Teacher Huangs are there in our school? The student asked back. The student union member frowned. The college stipulates that, if a student dies in the ring, neither the instructor of the two teams can watch the ring. This is to prevent the instructor from intervening when the student is in danger, thereby destroying fairness. Teacher Huang is Luo Beichen's instructor. How could he knowingly do it? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 29, Factional Struggle. The student union member frowned and walked out of the training hall. Sure enough, several teachers came. One of them had a mustache and was Luo Beichen's mentor, Huang Yang. The student union member coughed dryly and smiled. Good morning, teachers. Several teachers nodded with smiles on their faces. One of them asked, is the hall open? If it's open, we'll go in and take a seat first. The student union member stepped aside. It's open, teachers please. Several mentors entered the hall one after another. When Huang Yang stepped forward, the student union member raised his arm. Huang Yang's face immediately fell. What's the matter? Teacher Huang, the dead champion. The mentors of both sides of the challenge are not allowed to watch the challenge. It's not convenient to go in. The student union member said tactfully. Huang Yang snorted and said, what's inconvenient? There are so many mentors here, and you are afraid that I will break the rules. Besides, you are a student and I'm a teacher. Students are still controlling teachers? He pushed the student union member away with a push. He was about to go in. Suddenly, a strong wind blew in his face. Huang Yang was shocked. He didn't expect that someone would dare to attack the teacher in the academy. Although he was shocked, he remained calm and stretched out his hand to slap away a fist that was thrown at his face. Then he turned around and glared at a student who was taller than him and had hard features. Hey-oh, Huang Yang said angrily, you are oblivious. As a student, it is not decent to throw a punch to the teacher. He-oh rudely spat to the side. For those who don't follow the rules, let alone the instructor, if the king of heaven comes, I will beat him up. Huang Yang pointed at He-oh. Arsehole, disrespectful to the elders. Which class are you from? And who is your instructor? See if I don't teach you a lesson today. Teach. He-oh laughed. Okay, if you dare to define the Yuanli realm as intermediate, I will accompany you to the end. Huang Yang's chest rose and fell, and he couldn't speak. At his level, it would be no problem to teach a student at the intermediate realm a lesson. But if the Yuanli is defined as intermediate, it's hard to say. And he is a mentor. No matter whether he wins or loses, he will look bad. At this time, another girl said, He-oh, I advise you to respect Teacher Huang. I don't know which sponsor Teacher Huang has received recently. The Yuanli realm has advanced by leaps and bounds, and has entered the Tongsuan realm. If you miss today, even if I use one arm, it won't be easy to beat you. This is Jiuying, He-oh's partner. She walked over with a smile and said, by the way, Teacher Huang, the one who sponsored you is the Luo family, right? No wonder you know the rules of the death arena, but you still have the nerve to go in. It's not shameful to curry favor with the sponsor. If I have such a sponsor, I will curry favor with him too. He-oh, don't you think so? Huang Yang's face suddenly turned blue and purple. Especially the mentors next to him all looked at him. Huang Yang suddenly felt embarrassed. He snorted. He said, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. After that, he left. Jiuying winked at He-oh with a smile. Just as he was about to enter the hall, he heard someone chuckle. I've heard that the students of Basin College are very courageous. Today, I see that their reputation is well deserved. They dare to drive away even the teachers of their own college. They are really fearless. He-oh looked up. He saw a group of people coming together. The one who spoke was a well-mannered middle-aged man. The people around him all looked rich and noble. He Heo frowned and was about to retort. Jiuying quickly pulled him back and said, "That's the Minister of Education, Lu Cheng. The people next to him are entrepreneurs and officials in the city. We can't offend them. Don't talk nonsense." At this time, someone next to Lu Cheng said with a smile, "Minister Lu, it seems that your education policy needs to be changed. At least, we have to let the children in the future know how to respect teachers." Before Lu Cheng answered, another voice rang out. "Respecting teachers is the right thing to do. But it also depends on the person. If a person has poor moral character, it is too stupid to emphasize respect." Everyone looked over. Another group of people came from not far away. These people were all wearing military uniforms. They turned out to be members of the Surface Exploration Corps. The person who spoke was quite young. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes, and a square face. He had the demeanor of a general. Lu Cheng smiled and said, "It turned out that Commander D's right-hand man, Colonel Liang Jian, is here." He Heo narrowed his eyes slightly and whispered, "I didn't expect that Colonel Liang is here too. He is the Mecha Master of Flame and my idol." Jiuying looked at him in surprise. "Do you also have someone you admire?" Then, she observed the people on both sides and whispered, "LV Cheng is friends with the Luo family. I heard that it was Luo Xianai who helped him become the Minister of Education. He came to watch the competition, so he should be representing the Luo family. He and Luo Xianai are both conservatives. The Surface Exploration Corps is well known as the Radicals. On the surface, it seems that today's battle is a duel between two freshmen. But in fact, it is a confrontation between the conservatives and the radicals." He Heo nodded slightly. After the giant beast disaster, the conservatives have been opposed to surface exploration. They believe that too frequent exploration activities will attract the attention of the giant beasts and bring disaster to the underground cities. These rubbish are only concerned with enjoying themselves and are unwilling to step out of their comfort zone. They don't even think about it. If we don't carry out surface exploration and regularly clean up the surrounding giant beasts, even if we really do as they say and don't carry out surface activities, the giant beasts will come to our door sooner or later. Jiuying opened her red lips and said, "They were already the best before the disaster broke out. Life is only a mere 100 years. Now that they can enjoy themselves, of course they don't want to take risks. You want them to voluntarily go to the surface, to take risks like Commander D. It's too difficult for him." He Heo glanced at her. "Jiuying, you've fallen. You're talking nonsense." Jiuying replied. At this time, the colonel of the Surface Exploration Corps raised his hand and said with a smile, "Minister Lu, everyone, please." Lu Cheng laughed and said, "It's just a small competition," but it actually alarmed Colonel Liang. "It's really surprising." Liang Jian said bluntly, "Classmate Luo Yan is a promising student of our commander. Our commander has a mission and can't come today. I just came back from a mission and I'm on vacation. So I asked a few old brothers to come and join in the fun. Cheer up classmate Luo. At the same time, help maintain order in the academy. Make sure today's competition is fair and just, to prevent others from obstructing or intervening." After speaking, the colonel looked at the people brought by Lu Cheng intentionally or unintentionally. Lu Cheng didn't expect Liang Jian to speak so directly, and he said unhappily, "Colonel Liang, do you think we will secretly interfere?" Liang Jian laughed. "Minister Lu, Liang is a rough man. Don't take his words seriously. Let's go. The competition is about to start. Should we find a good seat, sit down and watch it carefully?" Then he made a gesture. All the members of the Exploration Corps walked in unison. Step into the hall. Chapter 30 Faith. Dormitory. Luo Yan was practicing. He visualized the undulating mountains and the towering peaks. He imagined himself becoming as solid and unshakable as a mountain. In this imagination, the Yuan force entered his body with his breathing, and according to Luo Yan's will, it washed the tendons in his body. After the skin and flesh, in the practice of the primary 3 levels of viewing mountains and seas, the Yuan force tempered the tendons of the human body. The so-called tendons are things attached to soft tissues such as muscles, tendons, and ligaments. It mainly serves as a connection and communication between bones. At the same time, it protects the internal organs of the human body together with the bones, and through the joints, it enables the limbs to complete various functional activities. The stronger the tendons, the faster the human body moves, and the greater the explosive power. Through the teaching materials, Luo Yan knew that there are 485 tendons in the human body, 62 in the upper front of the human body, 126 in the middle of the front of the human body, 72 in the lower front of the human body, 127 on the back of the human body, and 98 additional tendons. At this time, under the continuous flushing of the UN force, a tendon was finally tempered. Luo Yan used the inner vision method. He saw that this tendon was emitting a faint glow. It was full of toughness, not easy to be injured, and could exert greater power. He took a deep breath and slowly finished his work. During this week, although Luo Yan used the tranquilizer every time he practiced, he had only completed the tempering of 42 tendons on the upper front of the human body. Obviously, after reaching the third level, the speed of practice slowed down. At the speed of tempering 6 to 7 tendons per day, it would take at least 70 days to complete the third level of practice. No wonder Wei Fenghua said that the practice speed of viewing mountains and seas was relatively slow. Now it is tempering tendons. At the fourth level, 206 bones in the body need to be tempered. I'm afraid it will be slower. After getting up, Luo Yan moved his hands and feet. Looking at the clock, it was already 9:30. There was still half an hour before the death contest began. He drank a glass of warm water calmly. Then he put on the protective gear he had exchanged from the logistics department. This set of protective gear was more complicated than the one he wore in the forbidden area. The protective surface was also much larger. At the same time, it did not hinder the movement of the joints in various parts of the body. Luo Yan then opened a box. He took out a red poison relief agent from it and injected himself. Calculating the time, the last injection of the reliever was almost ineffective. Luo Yan did not want the red poison to suddenly attack during the fight. Then he hid the returning agent that could boost vitality and relieve pain, the detoxification agent that could relieve most toxins, and the golden boiling agent that could stimulate nerves and maintain an excited state for a short period of time. Finally, he picked up the long sword splitting star. Luo Yan walked out of the dormitory and closed the door. Training hall number 3. When Luo Yan arrived, Luo Bichen came over from the other side. Luo Bichen was wearing a black armor and holding a long spear. The blade of the long spear was flat and shaped like a boat oar, judging from the nature of the weapon. In addition to the characteristics of stabbing and picking with a spear, it also has the characteristics of cutting and chopping with a blade. The two stopped in front of the training hall. They looked at each other. Luo Yan thought that the other party would say something harsh. Unexpectedly, Luo Bichen was unexpectedly calm today. He just glanced at Luo Yan lightly and entered the hall. Luo Yan was more thoughtful. Luo Bichen was obviously well prepared. Otherwise, he would not be so confident from the inside out. Of course, Luo Yan also has confidence. His confidence comes from the realm of primary level 3. From the Kaoan wheel newly taught by Zeng. From the experience of fighting 2 giant beasts in the forbidden area. From the various experiences of surviving on the surface for 3 years. Turn around. Enter the hall. Applause suddenly rang out in the hall. Luo Yan realized that the training hall was full of people. There were freshmen in the first year, as well as sophomores and juniors. There were instructors he knew and didn't know. There were people who were obviously from outside the school. Among them, Luo Yan saw the people from the Surface Exploration Corps. Although he didn't recognize any of them, the uniforms were the same as Zeng's, which made him feel familiar. At this time, he saw a square-faced and burly young man in the corps nodded to him. Then, someone on the stage said, "Student Luo Yan, Student Luo Bichen, please come to the stage." Luo Yan stepped onto the stage, standing on the left and right of Luo Bichen, facing each other. "I'm Xi, the president of the student union, and also the referee today." The president of the student union smiled and said, "According to convention, it is necessary to check the 2 students. But you are fighting in the death ring, so skip this step. Let me emphasize it again here. In the death ring, there is no limit and no rules until death. Do you understand?" Luo Yan glanced at the long sword in his hand and said calmly, since I'm on the ring, I will never regret it, whether I live or die. Luo Beachin sneered and made a throat-cutting gesture. Basically looked at the two of them. Okay. The death match will officially begin in 5 minutes. You guys go off the stage and take a rest first. Luo Yan turned around and went to the audience. As soon as he sat down, Zheng Shan ran over. He whispered in his ear, Luo Yan, be careful. I heard that the guy surnamed Luo is already at the elementary 3rd level. Also, the Luo family has plenty of money. The gun in Luo Beachin's hand is at least a heavy weapon level. And it's a long weapon. You're at a disadvantage with a sword. Luo Yang nodded gently. I know my limits. Zheng Shan pressed his shoulder. Anyway, I support you. I also believe you will not lose. Luo Yan nodded. In the audience, Minister of Education Lu Cheng looked at Luo Yan. Someone next to him said, Minister Lu, what do you think? That guy surnamed DC's in this surface wild man? I heard that he went to the city lord's office in person to facilitate this deathmatch. Lu Cheng shook his head. He really didn't know. But he knew that if Luo Beachin lost today, not only will the Luo family be hit, but the entire conservative faction will also be embarrassed. In the future, their influence on some major events will be greatly reduced. Perhaps Dizeng brought this child from the surface just to use him to attack his own faction. I don't know Commander D's intention. Lu Cheng looked around at the somewhat uneasy conservative members. But I know that the young master of the Luo family will not lose. Because Luo Xianai invited Gaolin to be a mentor for his son for a week. Do you know who Gaolin is? Someone exclaimed softly. Gaolin, isn't that the previous commander of the Exploration Corps? He retired 2 years ago. On the surface, he left the Exploration Corps on his own. But some people say that he was forced away by Dizeng. Lu Cheng smiled and said, I don't know whether he was forced away by Dizeng. But I'm sure that he is the person who knows Dizeng best in the world. So the students he teaches will definitely not lose. Chapter 31. A moment of life and death. 5 minutes passed quickly. Basically, who was elegant and graceful like a young man in troubled times, stood up and smiled. Time is up. Please come on stage. Luo Yan immediately stood up and picked up the Starbreaker. He seemed to be particularly nervous, so that the knuckles of his hand holding the scabbard turned white. Luo Beachin noticed this detail and narrowed his eyes. The two came to the ring at the same time. Basically looked at the two and nodded. Begin. On the ring, no one rushed over first. They all kept their distance and observed their opponents. Luo Yan activated the barrier breaking eye, and dots of silver flashed around his red pupils. Luo Beachin's condition was immediately visible. His Qi and blood were 268, and his Yuanli was 154. Obviously, Luo Beachin had broken through again. Now he was the same as himself. Both were elementary level 3. And through this week's practice, Luo Yan's Qi and blood were now 426, and his Yuanli was 178. Compared with the previous breakthrough, it was improved. It has reached this level. The advantages of viewing mountains and seas gradually emerged. In terms of Qi and blood alone, it surpasses other practitioners. The Yuanli is also deeper. These are all advantages. Luo Yang blinked. Stop using his Shenzang. Opening the breaking barrier eye will continue to consume Yuanli. The longer it lasts, the greater the consumption. So after getting the basic information of the opponent, Luo Yan stopped using it. Then he drew out the long sword and threw the scabbard to the stage. Luo Yan's eyes suddenly became sharp. Here it comes. On the other side of the ring, Luo Beachin immediately concentrated. At the same time, his mind flashed with what Gaolin said to him in the morning. According to the information you provided, classmate Luo Yan is a ruthless character, and he has experience in killing people on the surface. Don't underestimate this experience. There is a big difference between killing and not killing. That wolf cub has seen blood, and he will never hesitate when he takes action. You are right to choose a spear as a weapon. Weapons are stronger as they are longer. Under the premise that you can't use firearms, try to choose long weapons to gain an advantage. If I'm right, at the beginning of the ring, he will take advantage of his full physical strength and energy to attack with all his strength. Moreover, he may choose to trade injuries for lives. You have never killed anyone, so you will become hesitant when dealing with some situations. What you have to do is to keep a distance as much as possible and try to consume the boy's physical strength and energy. Use the trick of the dragon step I taught you to trick him out of all his fighting skills and mystical arts. The world is yours. These words flashed through Luo Beechen's mind in an instant. He made a prompt decision and retreated with the spear. But he did not retreat blindly. The spear sprang up, swift as lightning, and stabbed at Luo Yan's face. Luo Yan did not retreat, but accelerated. He just tilted his head and watched the flat and sharp spear blade pass under his eyes. He did not even blink, allowing the spear blade to cut a blood groove on his cheek. Taking advantage of the opportunity, he took a step forward, like a ghost, and came to Luo Beechen's side. Luo Beechen quickly put away the spear and raised the spear. At this time, the splitting star turned into a black lightning. In a brief moment, it crossed the side of Luo Beechen's neck. Sword skill, thunder, bang. The long sword chopped on the spear handle, sparks flew. Luo Beechen's palm was numb and painful, and he almost couldn't hold the spear firmly. He was hit by Luo Yan's sword and lost his balance. He took 3 steps to the left before he could stand firmly. He was frightened and broke into a cold sweat. Gaolin's words flashed through his mind again. Remember, a true master must learn to predict, rather than countering the opponent's moves. Learn to analyze the opponent's psychology. Understand his patterns of action. If you see your opponent holding a sword today, he will most likely use Xing's thunder. And with the character of that classmate Luo, once he has the opportunity to use combat skills, he will most likely not waste energy attacking your joints. He will go straight for your neck or face. When he approaches you, don't think about anything, just pick up your gun and block it immediately. Luo Beechen's heart was pounding. If Gaolin hadn't reminded him, the sword just now would have decided the outcome. The hall was silent. From Luo Yan's initiative to attack, to Luo Beechen being chopped back several steps. The whole process. It was just a short moment. But even an outsider could see the danger in it. If Luo Beechen had raised his spear a little slower, the head of the young master of the Luo family would probably have fallen on the ring. Good. Someone cheered. It attracted the attention of the whole audience. It was Colonel Liang Jian of the Surface Corps. He bared his white teeth and shouted, "This is a life and death fight. Life and death are just a matter of a moment. It feels so good." On the other side of the audience, the conservatives headed by Lu Cheng were all in a low mood. Especially the Minister of Education. Lu Cheng just told the people next to him that the students taught by Gaolin would win. As a result, Luo Beechen was almost beheaded less than a minute after he went on stage. Lu Cheng's face suddenly became hot. He felt that his late reputation was not preserved. On the stage, Luo Yan didn't hear the colonel's cheers at all, nor did he care about other people's thoughts. He focused all his attention on Luo Beechen. After seeing that his fighting skills were blocked, he was not frustrated. He rushed forward with a few steps, and the star-splitting launched a fierce offensive, actively attacking. The ring was ringing with the sound of ding-dong and metal clashing. Luo Beechen was beaten so hard that he could only defend for a while. Luo Beechen's face was gloomy. He kept his composure and defended with all his strength. At the same time, he remembered Gaolin's advice. That wolf cub is cruel. After thunder fails, he will definitely take the initiative to attack. At this time, don't do anything. Just focus on defense. A long-term attack will lead to failure. When he shows a flaw, it's time for you to counterattack. Clang 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 clang. Splitting Star and Luo Beechen's gun collided countless times. Sparks flickered on the ring. Luo Beechen noticed that Luo Yan's hand holding the long sword. The joints were getting paler and paler. Finally, after the sword and the gun collided again, Luo Yan seemed to be unable to control it, and the long sword almost floated out of his grasp. The opportunity has come. Luo Beechen suddenly burst into a fluctuation of yuan li. He stepped forward fiercely. The long spear stabbed at Luo Yan's right foot. Luo Yan quickly retreated. The tip of the spear pierced into the ring and pierced into the wooden board below. Luo Beechen turned around and supported the long spear with his shoulder. He suddenly exerted force. The long spear seemed to lift a mountain. The tip of the spear suddenly rose up. It broke one piece of wooden board after another. All of them rushed towards Luo Yan. This is a combat skill. Spear skill. Picking the mountain. Luo Yan quickly used his sword to block. Luo Beachin rushed forward and stabbed with his spear. Luo Yan barely dodged sideways. Luo Beachin changed from stabbing to sweeping. The long spear swept towards the opponent with great force. Luo Yan raised his sword and prepared to block. Luo Beachin raised the corners of his mouth and both hands holding the spear handle. At the same time, he turned in opposite directions. The spear made a clicking sound and actually separated. Under the alloy spear handle, there was still a real spear body wrapped with strips of soft metal. So when the spear was blocked by the splitting star, it did not stop there. Under the action of inertia, the front half of the spear body, which became soft at this moment, swung out a large arc. The tip of the spear pointed at Luo Yan's throat. This is another combat skill. Spear skill. Snake spitting tongue. Chapter 32. Instant kill. Seeing that the tip of the spear was about to hit, Luo Yan grabbed the tip of the spear with his free hand in time. But at this moment, Luo Beachin let out a fierce smile. Seeing his smile, Luo Yan immediately let go of the tip of the spear and rushed to the side. At this moment, a black light shot out from the flat tip of the spear. It instantly brushed across Luo Yan's neck, leaving a blood groove. There was actually a steel needle hidden in the tip of the spear. This is the real snake's tongue. Good. Some people cheered in the audience. But this time, the one who cheered was the Minister of Education, Lu Cheng. His face was flushed. Just now, Luo Beachin was split by Luo Yan's sword. He almost wanted to find a crack in the ground to hide. Now Luo Beachin has made a comeback. Lu Cheng is naturally happy. The conservative members around him also cheered, trying to create psychological pressure on Luo Yan. On the ring, Luo Yan pulled away. Suddenly, his vision blurred. The steel needle was poisonous. He immediately took out the antidote, but didn't have time to inhale it into his mouth. Luo Beachin has already rushed over. Seized the opportunity to pursue. Luo Yan suddenly threw the antidote at Luo Beachin's head. Luo Beachin instinctively tilted his head, and his movements inevitably slowed down a bit. Luo Yan rushed over, relaxed his knees, and slid under Luo Beachin's spear. At the same time, the splitting star swept. A sword was cut on the opponent's knee, where there was no armor protection. Luo Beachin immediately groaned and staggered. He has always been pampered, and has never suffered such a punishment. The pain immediately distorted his expression, and he was unable to continue chasing Luo Yan. Luo Yan took the opportunity to pick up the antidote, and took a long breath. He absorbed the medicine inside into his body. Then he took out the golden boiling agent that stimulated the nerves and sucked it into his mouth. Under the effect of the two medicines, the toxins on Luo Beachin's steel needle were temporarily suppressed. On the other side, Luo Beachin also absorbed the medicine and temporarily relieved the pain in his legs. He saw Luo Yan stand up again. He secretly said it was a pity. It's a pity that he couldn't get the deadly poison that would kill him instantly. Otherwise Luo Yan would have died just now. In the deathmatch, there are no rules and restrictions. Both sides can do whatever they want. Luo Beachin would use poison. Luo Yan didn't find it strange. If the logistics department didn't have poison to exchange, Luo Yan would also want to apply poison on the sword. Although the poison has been temporarily contained now, no one knows how long it can last. So Luo Yan decided to fight quickly. On the contrary, the trap has been set. Based on his understanding of Luo Beachin, the chances of the other party being fooled are very high. Luo Yan took a deep breath and rushed out suddenly. Luo Beachin had already made up his mind. He decided to play it safe and wait until Luo Yan's poison took effect before harvesting. So when the opponent rushed over, Luo Beachin put away his gun to defend himself and restored the spear to its original state to block. In an instant, Luo Yan had arrived. The body was obviously bursting with yuanli fluctuations. The skin on his watch had slight rock textures. The splitting star was raised. Luo Beachin immediately raised his spear. He knew that Luo Yan was going to use the thunderbolt again. He had already thought about it. After blocking Luo Yan's attack, he would use his own divine hidden art and mystical art to delay time. This battle must be won. On the ring, the moment Luo Yan raised his sword, boom. The bright yellow yuan key brilliance burst out like a flame. The boiling breath made Luo Yan's hair rise and flutter. Under the illumination of the yuan power, his red eyes were like burning flames. The Koan wheel. At this moment, Luo Yan finally used the secret method taught by Xing. Instantly, he gained an all-round improvement. The sword flashed. Sweep. Luo Beichen's expression was strange. He was about to laugh. He guessed the thunderbolt. But he didn't expect Luo Yan to have the secret method of the soul opening wheel. This was something that Gaolin had never mentioned. Luo Beichen's mind was blank. His experience and his reaction could not make a correct judgment in this moment. At this moment, Luo Beichen saw the sword light, which actually shattered and disintegrated. It shattered into hundreds of tiny rays of light, densely packed, crisscrossing, and filling the field of vision. There were exclamations in the training hall. Minister of Education Lu Cheng even jumped up. From his angle, he saw Luo Yan's long sword sweeping across, but as soon as the sword was swept out, it split into hundreds of fragments. These fragments dragged a stream of light. It was like Luo Yan's sword splashed out thousands of meteors. Those meteors bypassed Luo Beichen's spear. Only a few hit the spear and bounced to the left and right. The rest swept across Luo Beichen's head at once. Behind Luo Beichen, they reorganized into a long sword. Luo Beichen seemed to be petrified. He stood still. Luo Yan turned around and walked towards the edge of the ring. What happened? Did I block it? Why did the surname Luo leave? Did I lose? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. I still have the Shenzang that I haven't used. I still have the mysterious arts that are useless. I will not lose. I will not. Luo Beichen opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something. But suddenly streaks of blood came out from all parts of his face. When Luo Yan jumped off the ring, Luo Beichen's head was like a smashed watermelon. It instantly shattered all over the ground. Screams rang out in the training hall. Several girls fainted on the spot. Many of them were pale. Lu Cheng sat back in his seat, as if he had lost all his strength. At this moment, he had only one thought in his mind. Lost. The young master of the Luo family lost. Why? Just now, the young master Luo had the upper hand. How come in the blink of an eye, he was killed by the kid named Luo? I must be dreaming. Yes, I'm dreaming. At this time, he heard laughter from the audience opposite. Liang Jian. The colonel stood up and said, "Excellent. Seize the opportunity to explode, and don't give the opponent a chance to turn the tables. Your mind, experience, and judgment are all top notch. You are also decisive, and don't drag your feet. After graduation, our exploration corps will want this classmate." Luo Yan raised his head and looked at Liang Jian in the audience. The latter gave him a thumbs up. Luo Yan just smiled. His eyes went dark. He fell to the ground. The poison that Luo Beichen had applied on the steel needle took effect. Liang Jian immediately jumped down from the audience, picked up Luo Yan and shouted, "Doctor, where is the doctor?" The school doctor appeared quickly. Then Liang Jian and a group of soldiers from the exploration corps escorted Luo Yan to the school infirmary. In the training hall, Lu Cheng sighed and stood up. He said sadly, "Let's go, everyone. There's nothing to see." Among these people, a middle-aged man with a bald head and thick lips looked at Luo Beichen's body on the ring. He looked at the direction where Luo Yan was going away. I couldn't help but sigh. Young people nowadays are so amazing. What are you talking about? If you don't want to leave, just go aside and don't block the way. A man said dissatisfiedly. The bald man's eyes showed a hint of hostility, but when he turned around, he was smiling and bowing. "Sorry, Mr. Su. I'm blocking your way. Please go first. Please go first." Mr. Su snorted and said, "I said, how can you, a small director of the local security bureau, be qualified to watch the competition? Now I understand." The bald man pretended not to understand and kept smiling. "P.S. It's another day of 10,000. Brothers and sisters, can you give some encouragement to the newbies, such as throwing some tickets or something? I'm crying for food." Chapter 33, Praise to Death. Jiuying Avenue, Luo Mansion. A black car stopped in front of the gate. The door opened, and the Minister of Education Lu Cheng got out. He looked up at the horizontal plaque on the gate. On the plaque, the words Luo Mansion were written in a flamboyant style. Arrogant. Lu Cheng pulled his collar and slowly exhaled. Then he walked into the gradually opening door. He came to the study. He saw Luo Xianai at first sight. The owner of Kaiming Heavy Industry closed his eyes. His breath was steady. Next to him stood a tall young man, the eldest son of the Luo family, Luo Nangsing. Lu Cheng took off his shoes and entered the room. He nodded to Luo Nangsing, then bowed to Luo Xianai. Mr. Luo, I'm back. Luo Xianai did not open his eyes. What was the result? Lu Cheng swallowed his saliva, then said, Mr. Luo, unfortunately lost. The study was silent. You could hear a pin drop. In this suffocating atmosphere, the sweat on Lu Cheng's forehead dripped out, drop by drop. After a while, Luo Xianai finally spoke. I know. Lu Cheng quickly took out a mobile phone and put it on the table. I had someone record the whole process of the fight. It's in there. The father and son of the Luo family were speechless. Lu Cheng didn't dare to stay for long. He backed out of the study. After the door was closed, Luo Xianai opened his eyes and said in a deep voice, go and invite Mr. Gao. Yes. Luo Nangsing left for a while. Then he came back. Gao Lin, who was coaching Luo Beichan, also came. Nangsing, you go and do your work. Luo Xianai sent his eldest son away and then played the content in his mobile phone on a screen in the study. Mr. Gao, please watch. This is the whole process of the fight. Gao Lin nodded and watched quietly. In a blink of an eye, the video was finished. Luo Xianai looked at the old man. How is it? Gao Lin slowly exhaled. Mr. Luo, it's not unfair to lose. Oh. Luo Xianai looked at the screen. Gao Lin closed his eyes and said, this kid surnamed Luo set a trap from the beginning. The first time he used thunder, it was blocked by young Master Luo. I think he had anticipated this result. He still did it to pave the way for the final blow. When he used thunder for the second time, young Master Luo thought he could block it in the same way. But this classmate Luo suddenly exploded and used the characteristics of his sword. Killed young Master Luo in one blow. When Gao Lin opened his eyes again, his eyes were sharp. That classmate Luo suddenly burst out with Yuan Li. This is not the practice of viewing mountains and seas. It seems that Xing exchanged some kind of secret method from the giant beast strategic mansion after I left the exploration corps, and then taught it to classmate Luo, so he had such a record. Xing really spent a lot of money. Luo Xianai looked at the screen and said, I'm a layman in combat, but since classmate Luo has this method, why didn't he use it at the beginning? Mental state. Gao Lin smiled and said, Mr. Luo's mental state is different at the beginning and later. At the beginning, Mr. Luo obviously kept my reminder in mind. He is very vigilant. If used at this time, it may not succeed. It seems that classmate Luo is a person who will not release the eagle until he sees a rabbit. He will not act easily without absolute certainty. Mr. Luo ultimately lost in experience. Speaking of this, Gao Lin looked at the man behind the desk. Mr. Luo, about this matter. Do you want me to go to Baizan Academy? Luo Xianai shook his head decisively. It's just the death of a son. It's no big deal. Luo is still young. At most, I can have a few more. Besides, Beichan's qualifications are limited, and I didn't have much hope for him. Besides, the city lord mentioned the matter of death in the arena. I made it clear at the time that Beichan's life and death are at his own risk. The Luo family will never pursue it. This is the situation Xing wants. What if I give it to him? He thinks that the death of a son will be a blow to Luo. Too naive. Luo Xianai snorted and said, if I'll let Mr. Gao go to the academy, the exploration corps will visit my Luo mansion tomorrow. How can I let Xing get away with such a good thing? Gao Lin nodded. Then, is this matter over? For the time being, it's over. Luo Xianai said in a deep voice, the city lord election is imminent, and now I can't let such a small matter affect the overall situation. Xing picked this time to make trouble, isn't it just to disrupt my rhythm? I don't want to do what he wants. Of course, I don't like that kid Beichan. But he is my son after all. I can endure it for a while for the election, but I won't endure it forever. I'll settle this with Xing after the election. He laughed again when he said this. Besides, to retaliate against Zeng, why does Mr. Gao need to go to the college in person? Isn't Zeng going to praise that classmate Luo? No problem. Luo Xianai, will also praise him. And praise him to the sky. Let him become the most dazzling new star in Guangling City. At the same time, let him become the target of public criticism. By then, I don't need to do anything. Some people will want to pull this new star down. Throw him to the ground and trample on him. People, they always can't stand seeing others do well. A tall tree attracts the wind, and a popular person attracts jealousy. It's always like this. Gaolin nodded slightly. First praise and then kill. Kill with a borrowed knife. Mr. Luo, what a good plan. Luo Xianai smiled and didn't respond. He just took out the perfume and sprayed it lightly on the cut of the cigar. The next moment, he was already smoking. He didn't seem to feel sad at all about his son's death. Basin Academy. Infirmary. Luo Yan suddenly turned over and sat up. For a moment, he thought he was still on the surface. Entering the academy, observing the forbidden area, and fighting in the death arena were all just a dream. You're awake. Wen Fenghua's voice sounded. Seeing this mentor, Luo Yan realized that everything that happened was not a dream. Luo Yan nodded. I'm awake. Wen Fenghua put his hand on his shoulder and said, lie down. You still need to rest. But don't worry, the poison in your body has been resolved. Don't practice for the next 2 days. Let your body rest. By the way, you have been in Guangling City for a month. Besides the academy, you haven't been anywhere else, right? 2 days on the weekend. Just walk around. First, relax. Second, get familiar with this city. Luo Yan was about to say that he didn't know the way. He heard Zheng Shan's voice. Luo Yan, come to my house tomorrow. Wen Fenghua turned aside and saw Zheng Shan and Li Boheng walking in. Zheng Shan greeted Wen Fenghua and said with great sincerity, I just happened to be going home. If you don't mind, come to my house for 2 days. Luo Yan looked at Wen Fenghua and saw his teacher nodded slightly, so he said okay. Zheng Shan was very happy. Then it's settled. Then he whispered, old Luo, the sword you used to kill Luo in an instant was so cool. Chapter 34, Level Treatment. Wen Fenghua patted a suitcase on the table, your splitting star and protective gear, as well as other things. I put them all here. You guys chat, I'm leaving first. Zheng Shan immediately waved, goodbye, teacher. After Wen Fenghua left, Li Boheng said, Luo Beichen's body has been claimed by the Luo family. The strange thing is that the Luo family left a message for you. Luo Yan looked up. What did they say? Zheng Shan snorted and said, they told you to take good care of your injuries and not to take it to heart, and they also claimed that the Luo family would never retaliate against you for this. In my opinion, there must be one thing on the surface and another behind the scenes. Li Boheng said, I think it's because the city lord election is imminent. Luo Xianai doesn't want to cause trouble, so he pretends to be generous. During this period before the city lord election, they will definitely not cause trouble for classmate Luo. But in the future, it's hard to say. However, at least during this period before the city lord election, classmate Luo, you don't have to worry about the Luo family. In addition, Li Boheng smiled and said, Colonel Liang Jian of the Exploration Corps is here to watch the competition today. After the death contest, he also said that after Luo graduated, the Exploration Corps would select you. I think he said this to Luo Xianai as well. In other words, Commander D wants to protect you. As long as Commander D is still in Guangling City, you don't have to worry too much, Luo. Luo Yan looked at Li Boheng with some surprise and felt that this classmate was not only thoughtful, but also very familiar with the situation in Guangling City. Zheng Shan seemed to see Luo Yan's doubts. He laughed dryly and said, old Luo, you don't know yet. Our classmate Li is a big shot. His uncle is a current city lord, Liu Haoteng, the top leader of our Guangling City. Classmate Li hid it very well. We didn't know until these few days. Li Boheng shook his head and smiled. My uncle didn't allow me to use his identity to cheat, but he didn't deliberately hide it from everyone. Besides, I also hope that everyone recognizes me as a person, not my identity. Zheng Shan laughed, then looked at the time and said, no more talking, old Luo just woke up, let him sleep more. Are we retreating? Li Boho nodded, I was just about to say that. Zheng Shan patted Luo Yan on the shoulder, old Luo, then it's settled. See you at the school gate tomorrow morning. Luo Yan nodded. After watching the two leave, he lay on the bed, looking at the ceiling. Friends. Luo Yan chewed the two words gently. The next day, Luo Yan came to the school gate in school uniform, holding the splitting star. Today is Saturday. Most students choose to go home for 2 days. They will return to school on Monday or Sunday night. Not far away, Hiheo was carrying a backpack and also planning to go home. From a long distance, he saw Luo Yan holding a long sword. When he passed by Luo Yan, he snorted and said, fool, weapons are prohibited in the city. You went out with a sword. Are you going to the local security bureau 40? When Luo Yan looked at him, Hiheo had gone far away. But he said, take your student card with you. When you get into trouble, just show your student card and you'll be fine. As Hiheo walked, he muttered, what a country bumpkin, you don't know anything. At this time, a laugh sounded next to him. Then his partner Jiuying said, didn't someone say that after classmate Luo killed Luo Beachin, he would go and have some fun with him? But why did I see that not only did someone not cause trouble for him, but he also kindly reminded classmate Luo? Oh, by the way, someone saved someone's life in the forbidden area, so this can be considered as repaying a favor. Hiheo glared at the girl with gritted teeth. Shut up, men are doing things, women shouldn't interrupt. Jiuying made a face at him, big man. Then he left behind a series of laughter that made Hiheo's teeth itch, and walked away. At the gate of the college, students passing by Luo Yan. Some cast admiring eyes. Others walked quickly, as if they had seen the plague god. Several girls were even pale, and did not dare to pass by Luo Yan. As if he was a flood beast. There was no way. Luo Beachin died too tragically in the death match yesterday. Now Luo Yan has been labeled as a ruthless person. Old Luo. A moment later, Zheng Shan finally arrived. He was carrying a bag, which was bulging with things. If he hadn't seen him walking out of the academy, Luo Yan would have thought he was going to flee. Zheng Shan laughed dryly and said, I used my credits to exchange for some food. There are many people at home, and it's rare for me to go back, so I brought more things. Luo Yan knew that in the logistics department, 1 credit could be exchanged for 2 weeks of rations. But no one wasted credits like this. And the school provided free meals. So Luo Yan didn't understand why the logistics department had an exchange item like food. Now that he saw Zheng Shan, he seemed to understand a little. Zheng Shan waved his hand. Let's go, take the light rail train. Then he walked and said, my parents are both workers. Our family was able to enter Guangling City thanks to my parents' participation in urban construction. But because they are workers and have no special contributions, they can only get the 6th level treatment. Luo Yan remembered that after passing the college entrance examination, when Xing Feng announced that all qualified freshmen would receive the 4th level treatment. But he never knew what it was. Now that Zheng Shan mentioned it, he asked, what are the level treatments? It's a system that allocates work points based on your contribution to the dungeon. Zheng Shan explained, you can think of work points as academic credits, or to be more straightforward, money. Different level treatments allocate different work points. Level 6 is the lowest level. At this level, even if you have full attendance every month, the work points allocated are just enough for food and clothing. Only my parents can get work points in my family, but we have many brothers and sisters. But now we have me. Although I haven't graduated yet, I have academic credits, and we, the reserve pilots, have 4th level treatments. This level has 3000 work points per month. But because we are still in school, we only have 1000 work points per month as a subsidy. But this is equivalent to the work points my father can allocate in a month. If you become a formal pilot, you can enjoy the 3rd level. In addition to 8000 work points per month, you will also be allocated a house and equipped with transportation. Seeing Zheng Shan so excited, Luo Yan finally understood what the class treatment was all about. Soon, they boarded a light rail train and headed toward the city. At this time, the radio on the train sounded an urgent notice. Yesterday, our city launched a special crackdown on the giant parasite smuggling organization. During the operation, several smuggling organizations were destroyed, and 175 frozen, live parasites were seized. But during the operation, one smuggling organization escaped, and the local security bureaus in various regions are currently trying their best to arrest them. If citizens find anyone with suspicious behavior, please report it to the local security bureau in time, or call the police. Listening to the radio, Luo Yan was surprised. There are still people smuggling giant parasites? Chapter 35. Giant Beast Smuggling. In the train, someone seemed to have the same doubts as Luo Yan. A girl in a pink dress whispered, "How come there are still people smuggling giant parasites? It's disgusting." A male companion next to her laughed and said, "Wasn't there an example of smuggling various wild animals in the past? Smuggling parasites now is similar to that kind of thing. Some people have unique tastes. They don't like to keep cats and dogs, so they like to keep giant parasites. Some people are superstitious about giant parasites, and even the bones and organs of giant beasts can be used as medicine to cure all diseases. These people are willing to pay, so there are people who dare to smuggle." Luo Yan was dumbfounded. In 3 years on the surface, he had seen too many people killed directly or indirectly by parasites. He had never thought that someone would actually want to raise giant parasites or use them as medicine. It was also mentioned in the common sense class. Giant parasites cannot be artificially bred or domesticated. They are violent by nature and cannot be adopted privately. As for using them as medicine, that is even more ridiculous. Parasites and giant beasts both come from the Yambu space, not natural products of the earth. They carry a large number of unknown viruses and bacteria. Using them as medicine is just asking for trouble. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Zheng Shan said softly. The first time I heard about people smuggling giant parasites, as well as giant beast bones and organs, I was as surprised as you. I wondered if those people's brains were broken. The facts prove it. For money, people can have no bottom line. Giant parasites are on the black market. Take wolf ticks as an example. One wolf tick can be exchanged for half a year's food for an adult. The profit is too big, so there are many people willing to take risks. Luo Yan frowned. He could probably imagine it. Behind every parasite that flows to the black market, there are more or less several human lives. Those are not cats and dogs. They are fierce creatures. At this time, Zheng Shan patted Luo Yan's arm and pointed out the window. "Look, that's the quick attack skylight." Luo Yan looked over. He saw some huge pipes leading to the sky above the underground city. He had also seen these pipes when he first entered Guangling City, but he didn't know what they were used for. Seeing Luo Yan's confusion, Zheng Shan laughed and said, "You come from the surface, and the course is not teaching you yet. No wonder you don't understand. Quick attack skylight is a channel, or device, that allows mechs to quickly reach the surface. Part of the energy used in our city depends on the light collecting device on the mountain behind the Great Lakes. Sometimes, those devices will be damaged by behemoths or other reasons, and need to be replaced. At this time, mecha guards are needed. In order to allow mechs to quickly reach the surface, these attack skylights are created. By the way, because the Surface Exploration Corps often has to go on missions, so the work of ground guards often falls on our college. But only third-year students can go on missions. It's still early for us." Luo Yan nodded. With Zheng Shan's explanation, he learned a lot about Guangling, the underground city. A moment later, he took the initiative to ask, "Have you awakened the divine treasure?" Zheng Shan laughed dryly twice and said embarrassedly, "I awakened it after I came back from the forbidden area. There's nothing I can do. I'm not like you. I practiced visualization before entering school, so it took some time. However, the divine treasure I awakened is pretty good." Luo Yan asked casually, "What is it?" Zheng Shan wiped the tip of his nose with a finger and said in a low voice, "Discharge, natural system. Now I can only add high voltage current to combat skills and mysterious arts, but my mentor said that if I can break through 2 or 3 times, I will become very powerful. It can be said that this divine treasure has good potential. After speaking, he thought that Luo Yan's Shenzang was a key seeing pupil with almost no potential, and hurriedly comforted him. Old Luo, you don't have to be discouraged. Last time when we went to the forbidden area, didn't teacher Wei say that if there were Teichu stone fragments, it would be able to cause the Shenzang to mutate. Even a Shenzang with average potential will become very outstanding after mutation. You can join the exploration corps directly after graduation. At that time, you may have a chance to get Teichu stone fragments to mutate your key seeing pupil. Luo Yan said HMM and didn't tell Zheng Shan that his key seeing pupil had already mutated. Speaking of which, Wen Fenghe also promised to give him a book about Shenzang after returning to school. But after returning from the forbidden area, he was busy practicing and forgot about it. He decided to go to Wei Fenghe to ask for it after returning to school on Sunday. See if he can find relevant information about the barrier breaking eye. More than an hour later, the train stopped. It was almost at the terminal. There were few people in the carriage. Luo Yan and his companion got off the bus and left the station. All of a sudden, they arrived at a place with narrow roads and low buildings, but it was full of the atmosphere of fireworks. The vendors selling all kinds of goods rode tricycles and set up stalls on the street. In order to facilitate business at night, they privately connected the wires, so above Luo Yan's head, you can see a bunch of wires crossing the street. People coming and going, some walking, some riding bicycles, and some riding electric bikes. They shuttled back and forth on the narrow road, shouting, cursing, laughter, all kinds of sounds mixed together. It made Luo Yan feel like he was back in the downtown area of the city. Zheng Shan said a little embarrassedly, it's a bit complicated here, but the rent is cheap, and the environment is far worse than the college dormitory. He was just about to say that Luo Yan might not be used to it. Luo Yan had already asked, how do I get to your house? Seeing that Luo Yan was not disgusted, Zheng Shan suddenly became energetic and took a step forward. Come on, I'll take you there. My mother's pancakes are delicious. I'll ask her to make you some to try later. Luo Yan smiled and nodded. Okay. Walking through the streets and alleys, they soon arrived at Zheng Shan's door. But they saw a girl of 17 or 18 squatting by the door. She was unhappy. Two boys of 13 or 14 next to her were trying to make the girl laugh. Unfortunately, the two boys had used all their magic tricks. There was no smile on the girl's face. Abayo, Xiaoshang, Xiaoxi, what are you doing? Zheng Shan was very excited and did not forget to introduce them to Luo Yan. Abayo is my sister, the second child in the family. Xiaoshang and Xiaoxi are the third and fourth children. They are twins. Hearing Zheng Shan's voice, the three people at the door looked up at the same time. Then the twin boys ran over and grabbed Zheng Shan. Brother, you are finally back. Hurry up and tell mom, my second sister doesn't want to get married. Zheng Shan looked confused. Get married? The twin boys nodded repeatedly. Yes, today, mom and dad are going to arrange a marriage for my second sister. They said that if I marry my second sister off, they will give me some work points. But this is not marriage, this is clearly selling my second sister. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 36, Mr. Luo, why are you here? Zheng Shan's face changed immediately. Then he rushed into the house like a gust of wind. Luo Yan heard Zheng Shan's shouting from inside. Dad, Mom, what's going on? Why did you marry Abayo away? A moment later, Luo Yan came into the house. He saw a middle-aged couple. The man squatted in the corner and kept smoking. The woman sighed and said, Azhan, your father has been ill recently. Not only can he not go to work, but he also has to pay for medicine and medical treatment, which all costs money. We really have no choice. It just so happens that Antoine next door introduced a young man. He has good conditions, and his uncle is the director of the local protection bureau in our area. I heard from Aunt Wang that his uncle is very close to the Minister of Education. Maybe it can be arranged for Xiaoshang and Xiaoxi to go to school. Zheng Shan shook his head and said, then can you sacrifice a Bao's happiness? Mom, I'll find a way to pay for the money. I'm a reserve pilot now, and I get a 1,000 point subsidy every month. This should be enough for dad's medical treatment and medicine. As for Xiaoxiang and the other two schooling, I'll find a way. At this time, a woman called out from outside the door, Dad Zheng and Mom Zheng, congratulations. Zheng's mother quickly pulled her son aside. Aunt Wang is here. Luo Yan frowned. He didn't like such occasions, but it was his first time to Zheng Shan's house. Leaving now would be too disrespectful to Zheng Shan. So he quietly walked to the corner and watched coldly. A woman in her 40s, still dressed up in fancy clothes, walked in. A few young men followed behind her. The one walking in front was dressed in extraordinary clothes and wore a golden watch, which seemed out of place with the Zheng family. He was extremely high profile and luxurious. The others behind him carried large and small bags and put them on the table. The middle-aged woman pulled Zheng's mother over and said, Mother Zheng, look, this is Xiao Chen's gift. You should accept it quickly. Zheng Shan rushed forward and said, my sister is not getting married, so take your things back with you. My family doesn't want them. Zheng's mother quickly stopped her son and apologized to the middle-aged woman. Auntie Wang, I'm sorry. This is my eldest son. He just came back from the college. He couldn't accept this for a while and acted impulsively. Auntie Wang said oh, and said with a smile, this is the son you said, who was admitted to the 100 Battles College and became a substitute pilot. He is really a good-looking man. But young man, don't think that you will be successful just by being a substitute pilot. Why don't you ask around? There are so many students graduating from the college every year, but are all of them pilots? Auntie Wang turned to the side of Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen is different. He has an uncle who is a director and arranged for him to work in the local security bureau a long time ago. He is already enjoying the 5th level treatment. Sooner or later, he will be the director. He has a bright future. If I were you, I would quickly marry my sister off. Maybe in the future, Xiao Chen will arrange a position for you in the local security bureau, because we are relatives. The young man, whose full name is Chen Xinhao, shook his head and said, Auntie Wang, please don't flatter me. I don't know when I can get the position of director. It's too early to say that now. He said modestly, but there was a sense of arrogance in his bones. It seemed that the position of director was within his grasp. Then she looked at Zheng Shan and said, besides, you can't get into the Land Conservation Bureau just by relying on connections. Even if they are relatives, they are not qualified to get in if they don't have good qualities. Zheng Shan sneered, who wants to be your relative? Stop flattering yourself. Aunt Wang pointed at Zheng Shan's nose and said, how can you talk like that, kid? Now Xiao Chen likes your sister. That's a great fortune for your Zheng family. If my family didn't have a daughter, you wouldn't have this good thing. Now that Xiao Chen's betrothal gift has been delivered, come with us first, girl. Tomorrow Xiao Chen will transfer the work points he promised you. After saying that, Aunt Wang actually wanted to hold Zheng Shan's sister's hand. Zheng Shan grabbed Aunt Wang's wrist and said, let's see who dares to take a Bao away today. Chen Xinhao sneered, a bunch of poor guys. Do you really think you are important? I originally thought it would be nice to spend some money to find a little white flower to play with. Now you are pretending to be noble. You think the money is too little, right? Then I'll add 1000 work points, or 2000. You name your price. It's just a woman. Can't I afford to play with her? Zheng Shan was completely pissed off. He roared and rushed over. With one punch, he knocked Chen Xinhao out of the house. Oh, someone is being beaten. What should I do? Aunt Wang ran out quickly and shouted, someone is being beaten. Someone is being beaten in the Zheng family. Go and call the people from the local security bureau. Chen Xinhao was dizzy and dazed by the beating. He finally came to his senses. He touched it. All his front teeth fell out. He pointed at Zheng Shan and said sternly, wait for me. At this time, he heard the sound of sirens outside. He was overjoyed. He asked someone to stop the car. It was the car of the local security bureau. Sure enough, soon a team of security guards came over. The leader was a bald man with thick lips. Chen Xinhao was delighted when he saw him. Uncle, it's me, Xinhao. He didn't expect to run into his uncle, the director. Chen Kangan here. Chen Kangan had received a tip that the giant beast smuggling group that escaped yesterday had lurked in the area under his jurisdiction. He personally led the team to patrol. Just now, someone suddenly stopped the car. He heard that it was a student from the 100 Battles Academy who beat someone up. So he came over. But he ran into his nephew. He saw that Chen Xinhao was beaten so hard that half of his face was swollen, and a front tooth was lost. He was immediately furious. Who beat him? Chen Kangan shouted. Everyone has his own responsibility. I beat him. Zheng Shan walked out and admitted loudly. Chen Kangan nodded and shouted, take the man to the police station. Several security guards stepped forward. Zheng's parents were panicked. They were just workers. They had never seen such a scene. They were at a loss. Luo Yan also came out with a splitting star. He frowned and wondered whether he should call Xiaoli from the Exploration Corps to ask him to help solve this matter. Unexpectedly, when Chen Kangan saw Luo Yan, his eyes lit up. Yesterday, at the death contest of the 100 Battles Academy, he also went to watch the contest because of his relationship with the Minister of Education, Lu Cheng. Luo Yan's performance was exceptionally dazzling at that time. And Chen Kangan also heard that later, when the people of the Luo family went to collect the bodies, they not only did not make things difficult for Luo Yan, but also asked the student to recover from his injuries. In addition, Colonel Liang Jian of the Exploration Corps specifically asked for someone. Chen Kangan smelled a hint of unusual smell on Luo Yan. The smell of a noble person. Suddenly, Chen Kangan pushed away several security guards. Under the surprised eyes of his nephew and Aunt Wang, he came to Luo Yan. Student Luo Yan, why are you here? Chapter 37, Rain and Sunshine. Luo Yan was also at a loss. Ever since his key seeing eye had transformed into his breaking barrier eye, he had a photographic memory. But he did not remember meeting the director of the local protection bureau. Now that he was asked about it, Luo Yan said, guest. Guest? Chen Kangan's eyes turned and fell on Zheng Shan. He immediately understood. He waved his hand and asked the security guards to leave. Then he smiled and said to Zheng Shan, Mr. Zheng, can you tell me why you used force? Zheng Shan snorted and immediately told him everything about how Chen Xinhao was arrogant and insulted him. Later, Chen Xinhao said impatiently, Uncle, why are you wasting words with him? Hurry up and cuff this kid. Before he finished speaking, his eyes suddenly went dark. Snap. A crisp slap sounded. Chen Xinhao was dizzy and thought it was Zheng Shan again. He looked up. The one who beat him was actually his uncle Chen Kangan. Uncle, what are you doing? Shut up. Chen Kangan interrupted his nephew. He smiled and said to Zheng Shan, Mr. Zheng, you beat me well. Then he turned and walked towards his nephew. Chen Xinhao, you are a hopeless person. I dragged you to the bureau, thinking that I would discipline you for your father. But you are so good. You are bullying everywhere with your uncle's name. Even if Mr. Zheng doesn't beat you today, I will teach you a lesson. After that, he slapped him again. Chen Xinhao's face suddenly swelled like a pig's head. Chen Kangan pointed at his nose and said, you, get out of here and go back to the factory. You have no part in the work of the Land Security Bureau. Stop embarrassing me outside. Chen Xinhao wanted to say something else, but was glared at by Chen Kangan. He dared not say a word. He walked away with his tail between his legs. Before leaving, he glanced at Luo Yan. His intuition told him that his uncle's attitude suddenly changed 180 degrees. It should be related to the student. To be honest, if it weren't for his uncle Chen Kangan, he wouldn't have known that there was an outsider in the Zheng family. There was no way. Luo Yan was too low-key. He didn't pay any attention to it. Chen Xinhao couldn't help but wonder. Who is this guy? He actually let his uncle slap him twice. The Zheng family was also stunned. Especially Zheng Shan's parents. Just now, the local security bureau was still aggressive and wanted to take their son away. How come in the blink of an eye, the director became reasonable and even killed his relatives for the sake of justice? At this time, Chen Kangan smiled and said to Zheng Shan's father, I'm sorry that my ignorant nephew has caused you trouble. Zheng's father said quickly, Director, you are too kind. Chen Kangan's eyes turned and he said, I just heard from classmate Zheng that you are not in good health. Then don't go to the factory. Our bureau just happens to be short of a security guard. If you don't mind, you can work for us instead. Although it's just a security guard, it's also a regular job. You can get reimbursement for medical treatment and medicine. As for work points, there are also 1,500, which is better than the factory. What do you think? Zeng's father was overjoyed. The work of a security guard is easy, medical treatment and medicine can be reimbursed, and the work points are 500 more than the factory. Where can you find such a good thing? He was immediately grateful. Chen Kangan looked at Luo Yan again, then smiled and said, we still have work to do, so we won't bother you anymore. Goodbye. Zeng Shan's parents hurriedly sent Chen Kangan out of the alley. They got in the car. The adjutant asked, Director, who is that classmate Luo? Chen Kangan smiled and said, Your Excellency. He did so much for Luo Yan's sake. He wanted to leave a good impression on Luo Yan. But from beginning to end, Chen Kangan never said a word to Luo Yan. This is exactly where he is smart. He didn't want Luo Yan to think that he was selling favors. Even if Luo Yan saw through it, it didn't matter. Some things, if you see through them, but don't say them out loud, there will be room for maneuver. There is a possibility of development. Besides, this favor is not worth mentioning. The Luo family lost a son, but they didn't bother with them. What little I have done is nothing. Today's matter, at most, it can only be regarded as a stepping stone. When Luo Yan has the momentum to take off in the future, it will be the time for him to really contribute. Chen Kangan asked himself that his ability to do things was average, but his vision of judging people was good. Zeng family. It was originally a disaster, but in the end it turned around, and the sky cleared up after the rain. And Zeng's father got a good job for nothing. This was something they could never have thought of before. Zeng's mother patted her chest and said that she had to go and pay her respects. At this time, Aunt Wang came over and held Luo Yan's hand. Hey, classmate. As soon as I saw you, I knew you were not an ordinary person. Do you have a date? Do you want Aunt Wang to introduce you to someone? Luo Yan narrowed his eyes, a little impatient. His eyes naturally swept over the woman's neck. The hand holding the sword gently pushed the sword tip with the thumb. The sword was unsheathed and sheathed. Just like Luo Yan's mood at the moment. Zeng Shan saw it and hurriedly drove Aunt Wang away to avoid making Luo Yan unhappy. He continued, Dad, Mom. Today we are out of danger, thanks to Luo Yan. Mom, hurry up and make some pancakes for them. On the way, I promised Luo Yan that the pancakes you make are delicious. Zeng Shan is not stupid. Why did Chen Kangan's attitude suddenly change? He understands. Although he doesn't know why Chen Kangan is so polite to Luo Yan. But he knew that he didn't have to go to the Land Conservation Bureau today, and his father even earned a good job. It was all thanks to Luo Yan. Zeng's father heard it and said, how can you treat your classmates to pancakes? You are so happy today, let's go to a restaurant. Zeng Shan also knew Luo Yan's temper a little bit, and shook his head when he heard it. Old Luo doesn't like crowded places, so it's better to stay at home. Mom, you go to the kitchen. Luo Yan nodded in agreement. Zeng's mother said, okay, you greet the classmates, and Mom will make pancakes. Zeng Bao hurriedly said, Mom, I'll help you. Living room. Luo Yan sat down. Zeng Shan said sincerely, Old Luo, thank you today. Including today, you have helped me 3 times. Nothing to say. If you need me in the future, just ask. If I frown, I'm not a man. Luo Yan glanced at him, and then said unsparingly. Soon, the pancake was served. Luo Yan was not afraid of the heat, so he picked one up, and took a bite. I could feel the fat, but not greasy meat stuffing wrapped under the pancake. In addition, there were sour and sweet apple diced. The fragrance of the fruit made the pancake more layered. As he ate this snack, Luo Yan closed his eyes. It was as if he had returned to the days before the monster disaster. This taste. He hadn't tasted it for 3 years. How is it? Zeng Shan asked. Luo Yan opened his eyes and looked at Zeng's mother. Auntie made it so delicious. Zeng's mother was delighted and stuffed several pancakes into Luo Yan's plate. If you like it, you should eat more. Come back with Zeng Shan more often during the holidays. Auntie will make you delicious food. In a trance, Luo Yan seemed to see a vague figure. Go home quickly during the holidays, and mom will make you delicious food. Luo Yan's vision suddenly blurred. He lowered his head and ate the pancake silently. As he ate, he felt that the pancake was a little salty. Chapter 38, Silencing Witnesses. At night. Luo Yan, you sleep on the bed. I'll sleep on the floor in the living room. Zhengshan's bedroom is very small. If you put down a bed, there will be no extra space to move around. Luo Yan shook his head. I'll sleep in the living room. I'm not used to sleeping on the bed. Until now, the bed in the dormitory is still a decoration. Luo Yan sleeps under the bed every night. The narrow space makes him feel safe. Zhengshan heard it. That's fine. We both sleep in the living room, just right for chatting. It was agreed to chat. As a result, Zhengshan snored loudly less than 1 minute after falling asleep. Luo Yan hugged Splitting Star and slept with his clothes on. He fell asleep a moment later. Life on the surface has trained him to be able to sleep in any environment. Not to mention Zhengshan's snoring. Even if there is a war outside, Luo Yan can sleep whenever he wants. I don't know how long it took. Suddenly, help! A shrill cry sounded outside the house. Luo Yan suddenly opened his eyes, stood up and half crouched, hiding himself behind the sofa. Then he looked around. Only then did his sleepiness completely disappear. What's wrong? Zhengshan sat up, rubbing his eyes. He saw Luo Yan pointing at the window. At this time, a scream sounded outside the window. Everyone in the Zheng family was awakened immediately. Footsteps sounded. Then the lights came on. Wrapped in a patched thin blanket, Zheng's mother said nervously, it seems to have come from Aunt Wang's house. Luo Yan came to the window and looked out. He saw a bungalow. The room was dark. Nothing could be seen. A little silver light appeared in Luo Yan's red pupils. He opened the barrier-breaking eye. The wall disappeared immediately. Luo Yan saw the living room of the bungalow. Several grey shadows appeared. One of the shadows fell to the ground, and from the outline it was a woman. Above the woman, there was a grey light the size of a wolfhound. The thing was lying on the woman, as if it was gnawing something. The other two grey lights wandered around the room. Sometimes they even climbed onto the wall. Such movements are very similar to those of insects. Bugs as big as wolfhounds. Luo Yan suddenly remembered the broadcast he heard on the train this morning. Broadcast about smuggling giant parasites. There's trouble. Luo Yan turned around and said, it could be giant parasites. What? Giant parasites? Zhengshan's parents turned pale with fear and quickly hugged the twin boys and their daughter. Zhengshan said, I'll go over and take a look. Luo Yan didn't say anything, but he had already rushed to the door. The two came to the alley. The neighbors nearby heard Aunt Wang's screams and came out to visit. Zhengshan shouted, don't get close. Aunt Wang's house may have giant parasites. Hurry up and contact the Land Conservation Bureau. Luo Yan had already drawn the Splitting Star and came to the front door. Using the breaking barrier eye, he saw that the situation in the house was similar to before. Those grey light balls suspected of parasites were still in the house. Luo Yan easily broke the door lock with his long sword. Zhengshan came over with a flashlight. When Luo Yan pushed open the door with his sword, Zhengshan raised the flashlight high. Suddenly, a beam of light shone into the dim living room. The furniture in the living room was in disarray. Aunt Wang was lying in a pool of blood. Perhaps she felt the light, so she tried to raise her head and stretched out her hand towards the door. Save me. Whoosh. A dark shadow suddenly fell from the light. It hugged Aunt Wang's head. A creature with a wolf-like head and a tick-like body. It started to bite Aunt Wang's head. Zhengshan took a breath. Wolf tick. Luo Yan added. 3. Zhengshan glanced at Luo Yan. Then he put down the flashlight gently so as not to disturb the wolf ticks. Then his eyes lit up with a faint blue light, and electric snakes began to jump between his hands. Shenzang. Discharge. After Zhengshan activated his Shenzang, he quickly formed seals with his hands. Finally, a black rope made of yuanli shot out from his fingertips. Zuanshu, black rope. But unlike Luo Yan, Zhengshan's black rope was jumping with electric snakes. Just like he said, he can attach the power of Shenzang to mystical arts or combat skills. The black rope wrapped around the wolf tick in an instant. Before the parasite could make any move, Xing Shan shouted loudly, allowing dense electric currents to pass along the rope and spread to the wolf tick in an instant. The room was filled with lightning. The wolf tick screamed a few times and was burned by Xing Shan. But at this time, the other two wolf ticks in the room quickly moved their legs on the ground and rushed towards Xing Shan. Lie down. Xing Shan heard Luo Yan's voice and immediately lay on the ground. He saw a flash of sword light above his head. Then, the sword light, like lightning, broke into thousands of pieces. Like pocket-sized meteors, it whizzed and flew across the two wolf ticks. So while the two giant parasites were still in the air, their bodies suddenly shattered. Legs, wings, insect shells, internal organs, eyeballs, fell to the ground with a crackling sound. Then those meteors flew back again, reassembled into the sword body of Splitting Star. Luo Yan then stretched out his hand and pulled Xing Shan up. Looking at the corpse of the parasite in the house, Xing Shan breathed a sigh of relief. Turning back to his neighbor, he said, it's okay. But at this moment, a scream was heard in his house. Xing Shan's face changed. He rushed back home. Luo Yan hurriedly followed. When he came to the door, he saw Xing's father lying on the ground, covering his arm. Xing's mother was held hostage by a man. The man had a large tattoo on his face and looked ferocious. He was pressing Xing's mother's temple with an automatic pistol. Xing Shan hurriedly said, what are you doing? Let my mother go. The man looked at Xing Shan and Luo Yan respectively. He spat. Bullshit. I'm unlucky enough to be blocked in this damn place by the people from the local security bureau. I thought about releasing the parasite to create chaos so that I could escape. You guys killed my parasite in just a few moves. How can I get out if I don't have some hostages? He looked out the window, then muttered to himself, I must not be caught, otherwise they will definitely kill me. It turned out that he was the criminal who smuggled the giant parasite. Xing Shan shouted, you want hostages, right? Then just catch me and let my mother go. Luo Yan looked around and found that the other party was at the window. It seems that he must have come in through the window and held Xing's mother hostage. Luo Yan retreated calmly, intending to go around the back of the house and wait for an opportunity to attack. At this time, the smuggler pointed his gun at Xing Shan. Get out. If you don't want your mother to die, get out of my way. Before he finished speaking, the outer wall of Xing's house and the smuggler's head exploded at the same time. Luo Yan's mind was briefly blank. Then an idea came to his mind. Kill to silence the witness. Bang. Almost at the same time, Luo Yan heard gunshots outside the house. Luo Yan instinctively looked in the direction of the gunshots. He saw a figure flash on the rooftop of a two-story building 300 meters away. Silver white floated in his red eyes. Luo Yan activated the barrier breaking eye and locked onto the biological gray light. Then he rushed to the street outside the alley. He saw the sniper moving quickly towards the street. When Luo Yan rushed out of the street, he saw the crowd in front of him exclaiming. Then a dark heavy motorcycle rushed out of the alley. The outer shell of the motorcycle was painted with a 9-headed bird pattern in red paint. The rider on the motorcycle wore a helmet and carried a sniper rifle. A wild turn on the street, the tires rubbed against the ground and made a harsh sound. Then the engine roared. The heavy motorcycle disappeared in a cloud of dust. Chapter 39. The giant beast attacks. After remembering the mark of the 9-headed bird, Luo Yan returned to Xing's house. At this time, the Xing family was in the alley, and no one dared to stay in the house. Xing Shan saw him coming back and hurriedly said, Old Luo, are you okay? Luo Yan shook his head gently. Xing Shan said again, I have contacted the local conservation bureau in this area, and someone should be here soon. Sure enough, within 5 minutes, the people from the local conservation bureau came. The leader was Chen Kangan, who had just come here during the day. Chen Kangan received a report from his subordinates and heard that the giant beast parasite appeared in Xing's house. He hurriedly led the team to come here. As soon as he arrived, he grabbed Luo Yan without saying a word and said, Student Luo, are you injured anywhere? His caring feelings were beyond words. Luo Yan was a little overwhelmed by his enthusiasm. Fortunately, he was always cold-faced. He didn't say anything, just shook his head and dealt with it. Chen Kangan found Zheng Shan again to understand the situation and heard that the person he was trying to catch was hiding here. He also released the giant parasite to create chaos and escape. Fortunately, he was killed by Luo Yan and Zheng Shan. The disaster did not expand further. Even so, Chen Kangan was still frightened and broke out in a cold sweat. If the disaster expands, he may not be able to serve as the director of the local security bureau in this area. When he heard that the prisoner had held Zheng's mother hostage but was killed, Chen Kangan's face became solemn. "Did you see what the prisoner looked like?" Chen Kangan asked. Luo Yan and Zheng Shan both shook their heads. Chen Kangan said, "That's good. If you don't see the prisoner's appearance, you won't be in danger." According to his experience, if the prisoner was seen by Luo Yan and the others, they would definitely kill him to silence him. Luo Yan did not mention the 9-headed bird logo. It's better to have less trouble than more. He didn't want to cause trouble for himself. At this time, the body in Zheng's house had been carried out. Chen Kangan glanced at Luo Yan, then took out a bunch of keys and said to Zheng Shan, "This is the crime scene. We need to do some investigation here. I have a house here, and no one usually lives there. Will you move in for a few days? If you get used to it, you can live there in the future, so you don't have to move around. Anyway, the house is empty. It doesn't matter who lives in it." Zheng Shan was deeply moved. Someone just died in the house, and the family might have psychological trauma if they continue to live here. Now there are other houses available, which is of course the best choice. He thanked Chen Kangan repeatedly. Chen Kangan called a security guard to take Zheng Jia and Luo Yan away together. In a blink of an eye, it was Sunday afternoon. This day was back to school. After saying goodbye to their families, Zheng Shan and Luo Yan came to the train station. When buying tickets, the station security wanted to detain Luo Yan's sword, but Luo Yan let him go after showing his student card. On the train, Leo Luo, if it weren't for you this time, our family might have been in chaos. Zheng Shan scratched the back of his head and said, although his grades and talents were average, he was not stupid. He knew that his family could live in Chen Kangan's house now, all thanks to Luo Yan. Luo Yan did not say anything. Zheng Shan saw this and stopped talking. A while passed like this. Suddenly, the train braked suddenly. All of a sudden, people in the carriage screamed. A girl even fell towards Luo Yan. Luo Yan dodged and avoided her. The girl sat down on the ground, raised her head, and looked at Luo Yan in disbelief. She couldn't understand why Luo Yan wanted to avoid her. Of course she didn't know. Luo Yan's reaction was instinctive. During the years he lived on the surface, Luo Yan encountered similar situations. He once helped a girl who fell towards him, but in return, she stabbed him in the stomach with a dagger, and the food was taken away. Since then, Luo Yan has developed the habit of not letting strangers approach. After the train braked suddenly, the power was turned off, and the carriage suddenly fell into darkness. And it was not just the train. Even outside the train, even in the entire underground city, the lights of all the buildings were going out. Finally, when even the lights on the ceiling of the underground city disappeared, the world suddenly fell into darkness. Then a red light came on in the carriage, which made people panic. The broadcast also sounded, "Alarm, alarm. Detection has detected a shock wave above the underground city. All power supplies are temporarily shut down. Please forgive the inconvenience caused." The broadcast sounded continuously. In the carriage, the mood of uneasiness was spreading. The girl who had just fallen to the ground held her head and said, "The Yama space is about to open above our heads. Is the giant beast coming?" A man said calmly, "Don't worry, it's not like there has been no such thing before. There will always be 2 or 3 times a year. We have escaped danger every time. The giant beast will not find us. We can go 300 meters underground." At this time, the screen in the carriage lit up, and the screen showed the picture of the large lake area above the underground city. Above the sky, black auras were wandering and condensing, as if they were going to tear a hole in the sky. The space shock wave can reach the critical point. Yambu space will be opened in 3 seconds. The giant beast is about to be launched. As the countdown sounded on the screen, Luo Yan suddenly saw that in the dim underground city, there was light that lit up step by step, all the way up. That's the quick attack skylight. Zheng Shan said excitedly. The surface exploration corps is about to attack. He then explained to Luo Yan, the high-speed attack cabin used in the attack skylight needs huge power to quickly deliver about 2,000 tons of mecha to the ground. Therefore, when it is necessary to attack, it is necessary to shut down the power supply of most buildings in the city, so that the energy can be used at the cutting edge. Luo Yan nodded. Another light cry came from the carriage. Yambu space. The Yambu space is formed. Looking at the screen, Luo Yan saw that the black auras above the underground city finally gathered together and formed a branch-like shape. This branch suddenly expanded, tearing the space apart, forming a crack. Looking into the crack, there is a deep, dark, and unimaginable abstract world. In that dimension higher than reality, countless shadows were wandering around, and then a flat and constantly changing shadow came near the crack and began to penetrate outside the crack and into the real world. Luo Yan's eyes were slightly solemn. So far, the time and place of the appearance of the Yama space are difficult to predict, so humans can only passively defend. If one day we can accurately predict the time and place of the appearance of the Yama space, it means that humans have enough understanding of it. Maybe on that day, there will be hope to close this space. A voice came from the screen again. The space boundary has been invaded. The giant beast is about to unfold in 3 dimensions. Orange spectrum detected, now matching with the archive. Point matching completed. The giant beast to be launched is TOT. Level, intermediate level 3. Type, naked insect. Features, energy absorption, gluttony, sprinting, invisibility. The weakness is between the legs. TOT. It turned out to be another intermediate giant beast. Luo Yan's mind flashed back to the scene in Flower City that day when the giant beast with a sheep's face and a human body looked down at him. Chapter 40. Unable to match. On the screen, a forest on the shore of the Great Lakes region began to shake, then slid back, revealing a series of attack wells. A moment later, 3 elevator cabins that looked like they had been magnified countless times rose from the attack wells and were then firmly locked by a fixing device to prevent the cabins from escaping. After the cabins appeared on the ground, the exhaust holes on both sides discharged air, and the pressure locks of the cabin doors turned and opened. Inside the cabin door, through the screen, Luo Yan saw a little light in the darkness inside. The engine of the mecha made a thrilling roar, like the strong and powerful heartbeat of a giant. The little light eventually gathered into lines, illuminating the darkness. Finally, 3 mechs walked out of their respective attack cabins. Their heavy steps, every time they landed, would shake up a piece of loose soil. The nearby woods, countless trees, were shaken even more. The 3 mechs were led by a red mecha, which was the flame driven by Liang Jian. The appearance of flame is like an ancient warrior. The energy slots embedded on the surface of the armor emit orange-yellow light. From a distance, it looks like a raging flame. The 3 Zhuanges are in a triangular shape, facing the giant beast that is unfolding in 3 dimensions in the distant Yama space, ready for battle. At the same time, on the shore of the Great Lakes, tanks and armored vehicles came from nowhere. They were distributed on the shoreline, and then pointed their gun barrels, missiles, anti-aircraft machine guns and other weapons in the direction of the giant beast. Finally, the giant beast that completed the 3-dimensional unfolding fell like a meteorite in the forest not far from the lake. After it fell, the earth shook violently. The shock wave made the surrounding trees fall to the outside like weeds in the wind. The wind blew. It whistled past the 3 mechs including flame, passed through many tanks and armored vehicles, and set off a wave on the lake. Dust and smoke rose into the sky. In the thick smoke, in the sunlight, a thin figure stood up and made a cry like a baby. The terrifying voice made everyone's scalp explode. At this moment, the thin figure in the thick smoke rushed out. On the screen of the train compartment, a goat's head suddenly caught people's eyes. There were 4 small eyeballs on the goat's head, and each eyeball exuded a strong malice at this time. Like humans, it had limbs and a torso, and its skin was dark blue, thick and covered with layers of wrinkles. At this time, it was running like a human, and the people in the compartment exclaimed again and again. Boom. The screen showed the sound of cannons that shook the eardrums. The first to launch the attack was not the mecha, but the many tanks and war vehicles scattered along the lake shore. They had already locked onto the TOT. Suddenly, Countless shells, missiles, and bullets were all fired out, causing fireballs to bloom on the body of the Teoti and the space around it. After the first round of saturation bombing, the forest was filled with dust, trees fell, and the ground was dug up a lot. I don't know what the Teoti is doing now. Suddenly, several armored vehicles on the distant lake shore were thrown up for no reason, and sparks were sprayed in the air, and they quickly disintegrated. Boom. The tanks exploded immediately, and burning fragments and human bodies fell from the air and spread all over the lake shore. Seeing this scene, everyone in the car exclaimed. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly. Obviously, Teoti has used the ability of invisibility. If it cannot be detected, the ground attacking troops will become quite dangerous. At this time, the three mechas finally moved. They strode towards the direction of the tank explosion. The convoy on the lakeshore evacuated urgently. While running, the three mechas fired some missiles continuously. These missiles flew straight into the air, followed by their own explosion, and then scattered clouds of green smoke. The green smoke did not float up, but sank instead, and soon covered the area around the lakeshore. In the carriage, Zheng Shan said softly, "It's a developing bullet. It can release developer, which is the blue-black smoke. Invisibility does not mean no form. Once covered by the developer, the giant beast will be dyed blue-black in a short time, and it will have nowhere to hide. This is the benefit of knowing the enemy's intelligence. As long as you know the ability of the giant beast, you can develop weapons to restrain it." At this time, on the screen, in a piece of blue-black smoke, a thin blue-black figure emerged. Although the Teoti hid its body, it could not hide the paint on its body. As soon as it was exposed, the three mechas including Flame raised their rifles. Bang 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 bang. In the huge and penetrating gunshots, lines of fire chased the Teoti and fired fiercely. The Teoti was bombarded, and its body kept swinging, and ejected blood arrows. Armor-piercing bullets. Luo Yan whispered. The armor-piercing bullets used on the giant beasts can penetrate even the giant beasts wearing thick armor, let alone the Teoti, which only has a thick skin, and is tough and impact-resistant. However, the Teoti quickly counterattacked, and opened its mouth. With a strong suction, the line of fire flying towards it immediately twisted and all projected into the mouth of the giant beast. Gluttony. This is another ability of the Teoti. After swallowing the enemy's attack into the stomach, it can be temporarily stored and returned to the opponent when there is a chance. It is a more troublesome ability. Flame made a prompt decision and raised his arm to stop other mechas from continuing to deliver ammunition to the Teoti. They were about to organize a second wave of offensive. Suddenly, the radio sounded again. Attention. Attention. Another giant beast is about to be launched. There was an uproar in the carriage. In the dark crack in the sky, another shadow began to penetrate and enter reality. It changes from a plane to a three-dimensional form, like a ripe fruit about to fall from a branch. A red spectrum is detected, and it is now matched with the archive. Point cannot match. Cannot match. There is no corresponding information in the archive. This is a behemoth that has never appeared in the archive. Hearing that the identity of the second behemoth is unknown, Zheng Shan took a breath. Even the archive shared by the Behemoth strategy house can't match the corresponding information. It seems that this second behemoth should have never appeared. But one thing is certain, the red spectrum represents the upper level. This is a high-level behemoth. The instructor said in the Behemoth Common Sense class that behemoths of different levels have obvious differences in their energy spectra. The lower level is blue, the middle level is orange, and the upper level is red. However, Luo Yan glanced at him and asked, "What is the giant beast strategic office?" Zheng Shan raised his head and explained, "This is a global organization that specializes in collecting information about giant beasts. It is an organization established for the purpose of expelling giant beasts, retaking the surface, and closing the Yanfu space. They have collected a lot of information about giant beasts, and established an archive to share with all underground cities. If there is no matching information in the archive, it means that the second giant beast has never appeared. In this case, we may be in trouble. For a giant beast that has never appeared, it is difficult to kill it in a short time." At the same time, in the dark underground city, the lights of the attack skylight passage lit up again. Chapter 41 Explosive Cross. Looking at the attack skylight, That was lit up again, Zengshan whispered. The ground reinforcement have set off. However, even if we use the spare skylight track, it will take 35 seconds to reach the surface from the underground city. I wonder if the mechs above can hold on until the reinforcement arrive. Luo Yan closed his eyes slightly and looked at the screen. At this time, on the screen of the carriage, 3 mechs led by Flame were actively attacking Teoti. They planned to kill Teoti before the second giant beast fully unfolded in the real world. However, Teoti was quite cunning. The giant beast with a sheep's face and a human body pulled away, used its hands and feet to lower its body, and ran around with the cover of the trees in the forest. It was very fast. Basically, the bullets of the 3 mechs could only chase after its ass, blowing up the trees along the way, but it was difficult to hit the Teoti. Flame immediately made a gesture to change tactics. The 3 mechs disintegrated and went away. 2 of the Zhuanges surrounded the Teoti from both sides, and when they approached the Teoti, they launched a series of capture nets. The capture nets were made of cables with high voltage currents. When they caught the giant beast, the high voltage currents on the nets would cause a strong shock to the nerves of the giant beast. It could paralyze them temporarily. The capture nets were thrown towards the Teoti, but the Teoti was always able to dodge in advance. However, the capture nets of the 2 Zhuanges were not launched randomly. The angles of the nets were calculated with the assistance of computers. Even if the Teoti was not caught, it would be pulled towards the direction of Li Yan. At this time, Li Yan had put away his rifle and reached behind him. The armor behind it unfolded, and a mechanical arm stretched out from it, sending out 2 long swords. Li Yan caught the 2 long swords, and the 2 swords swung together, and the blades rubbed against each other and sparks flew. Boom. The long sword sprayed raging flames from the blades, lingering around the blades, and the blades quickly glowed red. In the carriage, Zengshan shouted excitedly, "It's the Vulcan sword. This pair of double swords is of the heavy weapon level. The flames they eject have the property of adhesion, which can continuously cause damage to the giant beast. The blades forged with special materials are resistant to high temperatures. Under the heating of the flames, they will not melt, but will become sharper. It is no problem to cut iron like mud." At this time, on the screen, Teoti has been caught in the net and forced to a place not far from the flame. The ancient warrior-shaped mecha, all the engines are fully powered, and suddenly stepped out. The ground was immediately cracked by the mecha, the ground was heaving, and the trees fell. Flame approached Teoti all of a sudden, and the double swords were swung like the wind, igniting the flames and slashing at Teoti. After Teoti held his head with both hands to block 4 or 5 knives, he suddenly opened his mouth to suck, and the flames on the flame double sword suddenly twisted and deflected. It turned into 2 streams of fire and was sucked into the mouth of the Teoti. Suddenly, the flames on the Vulcan sword went out and only green smoke rose. The Teoti did not close its mouth and immediately returned the flames it had just swallowed, spewing out a stream of scorching fire, washing the head of Li Yan. Li Yan immediately retreated and kept a distance to prevent the head armor from being burned and the flames from entering the control room. Taking this opportunity, the Teoti turned around and ran towards the Zhuangji. The Zhuangji immediately raised its rifle and fired. Bang 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 bang. Amid the fierce gunfire, the Teoti rushed, running in a snake shape close to the ground, and finally pounced on the knees of the mecha and opened its mouth to bite. It wanted to destroy the concern of the mecha and make the mecha lose its ability to move. But just as the big mouth closed, there was a rumble in the mouth, and the head of the Teoti seemed to be hit by some kind of impact and lifted outwards, spurting out a mouthful of blood and 2 broken fangs. Looking at the Zhuangji again, the armor on its knees had been opened, but from inside, a weapon similar to a pile driver was retracting. This weapon was designed to deal with the giant beast biting the knee joints, and it could hit the giant beast's mouth with high speed and force. Its real name has been forgotten. People are more accustomed to calling it a battering ram. After being knocked away by the battering ram, the Teoti had not yet adjusted, and the flame had already chased from behind. The Vulcan sword sprayed flames again, and the shiny red blade exuded extremely high temperature. The Teoti had just turned halfway. The flame had already crossed the 2 swords and chopped A sweep of the sword swept across the waist of the Teoti, and the blade heated by the high temperature easily cut the skin, cut the meat, and broke the bones. Another knife slashed vertically, cutting from the head, along the central axis of the body, and broke out from the crotch of the Teoti. One horizontal and one vertical. Formed a cross. This is Liang Jian's fighting skill. Explosive cross. When the flame slid 100 meters and stopped. Behind it, the Teoti's body bloomed an orange-yellow cross, and then the body was blown apart. In the carriage. Seeing this scene, the passengers cheered. But at this moment, Luo Yan saw that the high-level beast had completely unfolded in reality and fell to the ground like a meteorite. A column of smoke exploded, and countless trees flew into the air and fell to the ground. At this time, there were still 5 seconds before the arrival of reinforcement. Whoosh! The wind blew. When the wind blew, it was a strong wind, with flying sand and rocks. Countless trees were uprooted by the wind and smashed in all directions. In the strong wind, a huge figure rushed into the sky. The screen in the carriage quickly pulled the camera to the sky. I saw a giant bird flying in the air. The flying beast looked like an owl, but its face looked like a human. The face looked like a middle-aged man, with deep wrinkles on his face. It had 4 eyes and even ears. It had black feathers on its body, but the ends of the feathers gradually turned vermilion. On each of its wings, there was an eye that was clearly black and white, and the 2 eyes scanned left and right, which was very strange. As soon as a strange bird appeared, the moisture in the air quickly disappeared, and it then flapped its wings and swooped down. As it flew over, some light red powder fell from the ends of its feathers. The powder came from the vermilion part at the ends of the feathers. As soon as the powder fell, it suddenly burned. So where the strange bird flew over, layers of fire waves arose. The fire waves swept through the forest and rushed towards the 3 mechs. Flame immediately inserted his 2 swords into the ground and squatted down to reduce the impact area. Then he raised his arms and closed them. The armor continued to open and expand and quickly formed an orange-red shield. The other 2 Xuanji also took off the shields on their backs and set them up in front of the mecha. The fire wave rushed over, washing away the 3 mechs. From the screen of the car, the 3 mechs seemed to be in an orange-red flood. They could be washed away at any time. The washing of the fire wave made the 3 mechs unable to take care of themselves. At this time, the reinforcement finally arrived. The 3 attack cabins rose from the ground, and the pressure locks on the hatches were turning to discharge the gas inside. But at this time, the strange bird crashed into the first attack cabin on the left. Chapter 42, A Flash of Thunder. In the train compartment, the passengers cried out in surprise when they saw the strange bird with a human face hit a strike cabin. Oh my god, that thing actually targeted the strike cabin. No, did you notice that it first used fire to distract the attention of the other 3 mechs, and then hit the strike cabin, so that Lian and the others could not spare any effort to stop it? Is this really a giant beast? It's too smart. People were talking about it. Luo Yan remembered that when he was in the forbidden area that day, when Feng Hua said that the middle-level giant beasts already have intelligence. Then, it seems not surprising that the upper-level giant beasts know some tactics. The upper-level giant beasts are like this. I really don't know how terrible those higher-level ones, like the Overlord level 1 in the forbidden area, are. At this time, people cried out again. It turned out that the strange bird was frantically tearing at the cabin door, and before the cabin door was fully opened, it thrust one of its wings into the crack of the door. Then, the wing began to vibrate at a high frequency. Luo Yan suddenly remembered the powder that had just fallen from its wings, and the high temperature flames that had been ignited by it. Sure enough, after the strange bird shook for a while, a flash of fire appeared in the attack cabin, followed by a violent eruption of flames, which sprayed out from the gap in the attack cabin. The strange bird immediately flapped its wings and took off. The next second, the attack cabin suddenly expanded, and the metal deformed. Boom. With a loud bang, the entire attack cabin exploded, and a mecha staggered out from inside. It can be seen that the outer armor of the mecha has melted and deformed, and various circuits are jumping with sparks. With the continuous explosions, the fragments of the mecha are constantly ejected. The mecha finally half knelt and did not move, leaving only a vague black shadow to the audience in the raging flames. In the carriage of the underground city train, people forgot to breathe. Several little girls even covered their mouths, and tears rolled in their eyes. This scene was too tragic. The driver in the mecha didn't even have a chance to escape. He was burned to death in the control room. Zheng Shan looked at the screen and murmured, "Perhaps, when we become pilots, we will end up like this one day." Luo Yan remained silent. It was not until the attack cabin exploded that the doors of the other two attack cabins opened, and the mechas inside stepped out of the door. One of the mechas had a smart shape, with a dark blue main color and red outlines. It was Zheng's mount, Lang Feng. Zheng Shan also recognized it. "Captain D is here in person." As Lan Feng appeared, he immediately raised a sniper rifle that was almost as long as the height of the mecha. The rifle was painted black and blue, with a barrel as long as 13 meters and an energy node on both sides. At this time, the energy node quickly lit up and filled, making the barrel of the rifle light up with a dark blue pattern. Bang bang bang. The rifle fired 3 times in a row. In the sky, the strange bird had no time to react, and its left wing had been hit, exploding, and feathers were scattered. It lost balance and fell down. In the carriage, Zheng Shan pointed at the rifle used by Zheng on the screen, and said to Luo Yan excitedly, "That's Thunder, an electromagnetic sniper rifle specially designed for Behemoths. It can use special warheads driven by various only, such as armor-piercing shells, high explosive shells, and incendiary shells. This is also a heavy weapon." Luo Yan nodded slightly. He was more concerned about Zheng's next move. On the screen, the strange bird lost its balance and fell to the ground. Zheng had already abandoned the sniper rifle. The Lan Feng machine lowered its center of gravity, leaned forward to the limit, and held the hilt of a long sword on the left side of his waist with his right hand. Boom. The mecha suddenly burst into a bright yellow light, and yuan gushed and overflowed. Luo Yan seemed to be able to feel the impact through the screen. "Kalen wheel," Luo Yan said softly. Obviously, Zheng had used the secret method of capo wheel. Use the secret method to increase explosive power and attack power. At the same time, a storm blew around Lan Feng, and a tornado rose up with great momentum. Zheng Shan shouted, "It's wind. Captain D's divine treasure." Through this period of study, Luo Yan already knew that Zheng's wind could increase speed and flexibility. The faster the speed, the higher the attack power. Zheng's wind can make the body move at supersonic speed. It is conceivable how terrible the attack power is when swinging the sword at this speed. What's more, he also used a secret method. Divine treasure plus the secret method. As soon as Zheng made a move, he would burst out with all his strength. On the screen, the strange bird was about to fall to the ground. At the same time, Lang Feng finally drew out the long sword at his waist. When the long sword was unsheathed, it seemed that an electric snake leaped. All the engines of the body roared, and Lan Feng pressed his feet hard on the ground, and he moved. Boom. In the crisp explosion sound, a circle of shock waves visible to the naked eye exploded in all directions. Lang Feng broke out from the center of the shock wave. The speed was so fast that the movement of the mecha could not be seen clearly. On the screen, Luo Yan only saw Lan Feng's figure become blurred. It had already disappeared from the screen. In the picture, there was only a blue track like lightning. It split the screen in two. The camera on the screen moved quickly, pointing to the strange bird. In that direction, the lightning crossed the strange bird. The body of the strange bird was immediately thrown out uncontrollably, and countless feathers and blood fell all over the sky. When it barely stabilized its body in midair, a huge cut was seen on its abdomen. The cut was so big and deep that it almost split the body of the strange bird in two. At this time, the blood and internal organs of the strange bird were pouring out of the cut. The strange bird flapped its wings hard to escape, but after flapping a few times, its body fell to the ground uncontrollably. It fell into the forest in the distance, crushing one tree after another. At this time, people saw Lan Feng put away his sword and turned around. Under the sunlight, the mecha shone like a god descending from heaven. Thunder. Flash. Zheng Shan pointed at the screen and said loudly, "Did you see it? Luo, that's Captain D's ultimate move. Damn cool." Although Luo Yan didn't respond, his pupils dilated slightly, and his chest was rising and falling vigorously. He knew that Thunder. Flash was a derivative skill of the combat skill Thunder. but he didn't expect it to be so gorgeous. So powerful. With one strike, it killed the upper level behemoth. Looking at Xing's mecha on the screen, Luo Yan had a strong idea in his mind. He also wanted to learn more advanced derivative combat skills. He also wanted to kill behemoths on the battlefield like Xing. With a light snap, the fluorescent lights in the carriage lit up, and the power was restored. There was also a broadcast on the screen. The threat has been lifted, the Yanfu space is being closed, and the power of the underground city has been restored. I'm very sorry for the inconvenience. Now, the light rail train will operate normally. I wish you all a happy Sunday. As the broadcast sounded, the light rail train started slowly. Outside the car window, the lights of the buildings in the dungeon lit up again, and soon returned to their original appearance. Watching the holographic panel on the dome of the dungeon projecting a simulated dusk light, illuminating the peaceful dungeon. If I hadn't just watched the entire battle through the screen, who would have thought that a tragic and thrilling battle had just taken place on the surface? Events like this, as long as the Yama space is not closed, it will happen at any time. And once the giant beast attacks the underground, then the current prosperity of the dungeon will be like a candle flame, which will be extinguished with a blow. PS. There will still be 5 updates today. Please vote. Give the noobers some motivation. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 43. Get out if you don't buy. Back to the academy. After dinner, Luo Yan did not return to the dormitory, but went straight to the logistics department. He wanted to exchange some potions to intensify his practice. Now, he has more than 300 credits that he has not used. Although the tranquilizer is cost effective, it is of limited help to practice. Luo Yan wanted to see if there was a more suitable one. As long as the exchange credits were not ridiculously many, he was willing to try. Especially after watching Xing's battle today, he had an impulse to desire power and be strong in his heart. In troubled times, you want to survive and live better than others. Obviously, strong power is the root of everything. As for credits, you can earn them again after spending them. Entering the logistics department, Luo Yan heard someone shouting. What? Work points can't be exchanged for items. How could this be? It was fine last semester. When was the rule changed? How come I didn't know about it? What should I do with the things my baby wants? Let me buy them outside? The quality outside is not as good as our college. Buy credits? Okay, wait for me. I'll find someone to buy them. Just in front of the exchange window, a handsome young man turned around and was about to leave. When he saw Luo Yan, he slapped his head and pointed at Luo Yan and said, "You are not the freshman, the one who killed Luo Beachan. What's his name?" Luo Yan. Yes, Luo Yan. Luo Yan glanced at him, ignored him, and habitually walked along the wall to the exchange window. Don't go. My name is Yang Likei. My father is Yang Zhen. Do you know Yang Zhen? The young man who claimed to be Yang Likei followed behind. You must know my father. My father is the director of the construction bureau. No, can you listen to me? He rushed forward a few steps and blocked the way. Luo Yan raised his head and glanced at his snow-white neck, especially at the aorta. Yang Likei felt a little cold on his neck, but he didn't care and continued. I heard that the college rewarded you with 300 credits when you came back from the forbidden area last time. You can't use so many anyway. Give some to me. I'll exchange it with you for work points. 100 work points for 1 credit. Be quick. Give me your student card and I'll transfer it to you. Luo Yan looked at him. He wondered where his confidence came from. He thought he would definitely sell credits to him. You want credits? Luo Yan said, okay, but 100 to 1. I won't sell it. Yang Likei was stunned, then said, okay, then 200, no more. 10,000 work points for 1 credit. Buy it? Luo Yan said. Yang Likei opened his mouth wide and shouted, is this the attitude of selling things? You are robbing. Luo Yan passed by him and said, get out if you don't want to buy. Yang Likei's face suddenly turned blue and purple. He clenched his fists, but saw the security guard of the logistics department looking at him lazily. Yang Likai snorted and turned around and walked away. On the other side, Luo Yan had already come to the exchange window. At the window was a girl who was older than Luo Yan. It seemed that she was a senior student who worked part-time here. She saw Luo Yan and smiled and asked, "Junior brother, what do you want to exchange?" Before Luo Yan could speak, a man came from behind the window. He was about 25 or 26 years old. He wore a pair of brown round frame glasses, held a small abacus in his hand, and wore slippers. He came over and lazily patted the girl's shoulder. "Xiaoya, it's getting late. You should go back first." "Okay, Mr. Haoting." The girl stood up, winked at Luo Yan, and left the window. The man named Haoting sat down, put the abacus on the table, and asked with a smile, "Classmate, what do you want to exchange?" Luo Yan said concisely, "Cultivation resources that can increase the speed of cultivation." Pushing the round frame glasses on his nose, the man said with a smile, "There are many potions that can increase the speed of cultivation. The tranquilizing agent and the Yunshu agent are the most popular. I've used the tranquilizing agent, it's too slow." Luo Yan shook his head. He added, "The cost effectiveness of the cloud water agent is too low." "I understand." The man with glasses reached out and moved the beads on the abacus. "You need a potion that can both quickly cultivate and improve progress and has a high cost effectiveness. Then, the starfire agent should be the most suitable for you. As the saying goes, a single spark can start a prairie fire. The starfire agent can accelerate the absorption of yuanli to the greatest extent, and the most important point is that it can help you remove impurities and make the yuanli as pure as possible. If you look at it from the perspective of efficiency, using one bottle is equivalent to the effect of 2 nervous agents, and it also has the purification effect that the nervous agent does not have. And it's moderately priced, only 10 credits are required. However, you are a celebrity in the school. I also admire your attitude towards Yang Zen-san just now. Here I'll give you a discount and only charge you 8 credits. How about it?" Luo Yan quickly calculated. The cloud water agent, which is only 20% better than the nervous agent, costs 5 credits. The starfire agent is twice as efficient as the nervous agent and has the additional effect of purifying yuanli. After the discount, it only needs 8 credits. The cost effectiveness is really high. Luo Yan looked up and said, "I want to exchange 10 sticks. Can you give me a lower price?" The man with glasses laughed and said, "I didn't expect you to be so calculating. Come on. Okay, I'll give you a little more. 75 credits for you. It can't be any cheaper. Deal." He swiped his card, took the medicine, and left. After Luo Yan left, the man named Haoting smiled and said, "Look, who dares to say that no one dares to try my new medicine now? Didn't classmate Luo take it? Those fools, when they find that the spark agent works well, they will come to me for it again. No one can exchange it without 20 credits." He picked up the abacus, hummed a little tune, stepped on his slippers, and walked away from the exchange room. Back in the dormitory, Luo Yan took a shower and prepared to practice. This weekend at Zheng Shan's house, he followed Wei Fenghua's advice and focused on recuperation. After 2 days, he felt that there was nothing wrong. Naturally, he didn't want to waste time. He opened the window and faced the night sky. Luo Yan sat cross-legged. He first did some preparations to calm his mind. Then he picked up a bottle of spark agent. The spark agent was dark blue, with orange light flashing from time to time, like sparks. He held the agent to his lips, took a deep breath, absorbed the agent inside, and began to visualize and practice. As soon as the visualization technique was activated, Luo Yan could clearly feel that the Yuan force, which was far more abundant than usual, was coming from all directions and pouring into Luo Yan's body. As soon as these Yuan forces entered his body, it was as if a ball of fire rose in Luo Yan's body. With a bang, all the Yuan forces that entered his body were ignited. During the burning process, the amount of these Yuan forces was gradually decreasing, but the Yuan forces, after being refined by the flames, were 3 times purer than before. They quickly filled into Luo Yan's tendons, and the tendons were quickly washed and tempered. In just a quarter of an hour, the tendons had been tempered. Luo Yan was delighted. This spark agent is indeed not simple, and the tempering speed is much faster than the calming agent. If you use one spark agent every day, you may be able to shorten the time by 1/3 and complete the cultivation of the primary 3 levels of viewing mountains and seas. Chapter 44. Opening the Ghost Wheel. Also on this night, Jiuying Avenue, Luo Mansion. In the study, Luo Xianai and his eldest son Luo Nangxing are playing chess. Go. Luo Nangxing lowered his head, his eyelids drooped, his hands on his knees, breathing slowly. He kept a low profile, but it was just respect, not inferiority. Luo Xianai picked up a chess piece, slowly put it down, and smiled calmly. Nangxing, you have been learning chess for 15 years, right? Luo Nangxing raised his head slightly and smiled. 15 years and 3 months. Luo Xianai nodded and said, yes, now you have all the temperament, momentum, and etiquette when playing games. What you lack is experience. Luo Nangxing knew that his father was not referring to playing chess, but other things. It's your turn. Luo Xianai smiled. Luo Nangxing made a move, purely defensive. Luo Xianai narrowed his eyes and said, it's not a bad thing to have a steady style of play. Only by taking steady steps can you have a solid foundation. However, sometimes, you also need to be a little aggressive. Especially when you need to exchange life and death with your opponent. If you still defend blindly, it is easy to lose your composure when your opponent is pressing forward step by step. Luo Xianai raised his head and said meaningfully, it's the same in life and work. Luo Nangxing stepped back a little, resting his forehead on the ground and said, my son has learned a lesson. There was a knock on the door. Luo Xianai raised his hand. Luo Nangxing sat up straight. Come in. With Luo Xianai's permission, the door was opened, and the old housekeeper who had served the Luo family for many years walked in. Master, Chen Kangan is here. Luo Nangxing showed a thoughtful expression. Luo Xianai said lightly at this time, Chen Kangan, who is it? Luo Nangxing knelt on the ground and responded, the director of the Yangping District Land Conservation Bureau. Luo Xianai glanced at him and smiled with satisfaction. He was deliberately testing his son just now. People like them, no matter how many subordinates they have, need to remember every one of them. This way, they can be targeted and not chaotic. Luo Xianai picked up another chess piece. What is Chen Kangan doing here? The old housekeeper replied. He said that he had contact with Luo Yan, a student of Basin Academy, in the past 2 days. The hand that was about to put down the chessboard paused for a moment, and then Luo Xianai made a move. Interesting. He looked at his son. You go meet him, and watch him deal with it. Yes. Luo Nangxing stood up, and walked backwards out of the study. A moment later, Luo Nangxing came back and said, Chen Kangan said that on Friday night, members of the giant beast smuggling group were arrested in his district. In order to confuse the public, the other party released the giant beast parasite, but was killed by Luo Yan and classmate Zheng Shan. Afterwards, members of the smuggling organization held a woman hostage, but were silenced. Now, the identity of the killer has not been investigated. Luo Xianai raised his head and said, did Chen Kangan say anything else? Luo Nangxing shook his head. No, he just said that he was passing by and came to visit you and told us the news. Luo Xianai smiled. For a district director, he knows his limits and is a smart man. Then how do you deal with it? Luo Nangxing said respectfully, I heard you say it before, father. You are going to flatter classmate Luo. So, I dare to let Director Chin come forward on my behalf and find a time to give the 2 students a banner and give them work points as rewards. Luo Xianai asked, how to reward? Luo Nangxing said word by word, student Luo gets 10,000 work points, and the other student gets 1,000. Luo Xianai nodded, okay. When there is a comparison, there will be people who are dissatisfied, and those from poor families will be even more jealous. If someone is jealous, our student Luo will not have a stable life. But that's not enough. We must find an opportunity to make him a celebrity and a popular person in Guangling. The kind of person who makes people want to kill him as soon as their name is mentioned. Remember, we are only dealing with Luo Yan in passing. Luo Yan is just a tool, just a lever. The one we want to pry up in the end is Xing. Bang. Luo Xianai made a move, and the outcome was decided. Monday afternoon. Training hall. When Luo Yan opened the door and entered the hall, he saw Xing. He was wearing a training suit, and there was no smile on his cold face, but there was a hint of smile in his eyes, like the autumn sun, clean and bright. Xing handed a book to Luo Yan. Old well, he gave it to you. Luo Yan took it and looked at it. It turned out to be the Shenzhen encyclopedia that Wei Fenghe promised to give him when they were in the forbidden area. Xing simply said, I came here today to redeem my promise. I will teach you the secret method of Kiaolan. Luo Yan's eyes lit up, full of anticipation. Xing first pointed to several acupoints on his body to explain the path of the Yuan force circulation, and then explained, unlike the Kiaolan wheel, the Kia wheel will not increase your immediate combat power. You means nothing, and also refers to dimness and depth. In our daily activities, whether we are sitting or lying down, the pores of our body are open. When the pores are open, they will naturally release breath. Some behemoths are very sensitive to breath. The Kia wheel can allow us to converge the breath of the whole body, but remember that you cannot breathe when the Kia wheel is on. Once you breathe, the air will be leaked. However, if you practice this secret method more, naturally, the duration of this breath will be extended. In addition, when the Kia wheel is on, the breath will be suppressed in the body, and the Yuan force is no exception. In this way, the Yuan force will be in a contracted state. When you end the Kia wheel and immediately transfer to the Kiaolan wheel, the contracted Yuan force will be in an explosive state. It is a more substantial explosion than the simple Kiaolan wheel. It is important to note that, in this way, you will consume more than just the Kiaolan wheel. So, use it according to the situation. Luo Yan forgot to breathe when he heard this. After calming down, he asked, if the order of opening other soul wheels is different, will they also produce different effects? Xing nodded coldly, that's right. In addition, secret methods and divine treasures can also be used in combination, and sometimes they are the conditions for the activation of some combat skills. For example, my thunder flash is the combination of divine treasures and Kiaolan wheel to create the activation conditions. In the future, you can also study this aspect in depth and create your own combat skills or mysterious arts. Next, Xing patiently pointed out the key points of Luo Yan's secret method. In this way, an afternoon passed. Let's go and have dinner. What surprised Luo Yan was that Xing left without finishing his teaching this time. Xing patted his shoulder and said, I haven't eaten the food in the cafeteria for a long time. I miss it. But I don't have credits, so you have to treat me. The cafeteria is free for students in the college, but when friends outside the school want to eat, they need credits to buy it. Luo Yan naturally agreed. So the two went to the cafeteria. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.